Biden was asked about the chances for his party.
I'm optimistic, but I'm always optimistic.
The Democrats win the House?
I think it's going to be tough, but I think we can. I think we'll win the Senate, and I think the House is tougher.
Tim McGuire, Washington.
When will we know who won what? AP election decision editor Stephen Oldmacher says it's going to take some time.
In many states, we might not be able to call all the winners on election night because it's going to take days to count all of the votes. And if you think about it, it's the states where they have competitive races. It's states like Pennsylvania. It's a state like Arizona. It could be a state like Colorado as well.
Former President Trump says he'll have a big announcement on Tuesday of next week, teasing a possible presidential run. Well, you didn't win Powerball last night. They delayed the $1.9 billion drawing because one lottery had some issues processing sales. A lot of people trying to buy tickets. We may have some official results.
All right, we have Pastor Thurston up.
Okay, and he can speak because I'm actually up now. How you doing, Pastor Thurston?
And he should help pay.
I'm great, Santita. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, we're going to be at the South Shore Cultural Center tonight. Would you let your parents know?
North Korea says the U.S. is
Okay,
lying.
not that I don't want to see you. I would love to.
Claims it's
Yes, man. When I get done at the gym, I'm headed right over.
Oh, okay. Well, let me know so I can, and let me know if your parents are coming and if they want to bring anyone, okay?
Okay, done deal. I will.
Okay, just let me know. What, you know, first of all, they're all, because I want to.
All right, I got him. We're good to go.
Thank you, sweetie. You give me an extra 2 minutes, okay?
I sure did. We'll start at like 6:07:50.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Great.
All righty.
Okay.
in Ukraine. Experts say the North may be seeking.
But you know, because we have some tables
and supplies needed.
Okay.
Okay.
Military capabilities.
So I just want to, because I told my mother I would be speaking to you anyway. But she's
Dow gained
running, and then
423
she's
points
just a little
yesterday.
tired.
I'm Rita Foley, AP News.
You know.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
8:20 a.m.
my parents are
WCPT
not
Willow
here anymore.
Springs and streaming worldwide.
You know.
WCPT820.com.
My kids,
We are
they are
Chicago's
moving,
progressive
but
talk,
they ain't
where
good.
facts matter.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Now your
Oh,
WCPT
gosh.
820 weather update.
In fact, I'm gonna run off air and just go see how
Here's
she's
the
doing.
latest Chicago weather update. Mostly
We
sunny
are
skies are
good.
for today with a high in the mid
Okay.
50s. Southeast winds at 10 to 15 miles per hour,
I'm just
gusting as
trying
high
to
as
work out
20.
these,
Tonight, partly cloudy
all
and low near
these numbers.
45. Wednesday, mostly
Yeah.
high 67 degrees. And Thursday, sunshine
You know,
high at
because now,
72.
you know, and I've
Friday,
talked to
mostly
people
sunny
about it. I
skies,
said,
a high
now
of
you've got,
47, and Saturday,
you're going to
cloudy, high
have
of 34.
Jonathan in time
From
will have
Weatherology Weather Center,
a really
I'm meteorologist Jennifer Vujitsky.
Republican
Currently, it's
coming after him.
45.
Attention.
Oh, yeah.
Per the current
I mean,
government
because
mandate,
you know, and I
U.S.
keep trying to
insurers are now
tell
required to cover at-home COVID testing kits every
Reverend,
month
I'm
with
like,
no out-of-pocket fees to
these
you.
Republicans
If
are
you have a
making
current
real
insurance
inroads in
plan,
the
you are
black
eligible to
community.
receive up to 8 COVID-19 tests shipped to
And,
your home or business each month,
I said, you know,
absolutely free. Just visit
you know, because it's interesting. You
testkitforfree.com
see,
to begin the registration process.
President Biden was at Bowie
Hero
yesterday.
Health, the trusted source for next-generation
Okay.
healthcare.
You know, because they are really
Your insurance
worried
provider.
about
There's no
young
deductible
black
and
people,
no
but they're not worried
copay.
enough to put
Your
money in them.
monthly tests will ship directly to your home or business
Yeah.
for free.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I just put it right there. It's like, come on now. I mean, that's politics. And what the, I mean, I'm not asking for sincerity from people, because the thing is, you have to
by
push
registering
people.
you and your family
When you
today.
push people in your
Visit
politics, things really do
testkitforfree.com
change.
to register from the comfort
You
of
know?
your own home.
And
That's
we have to start doing that.
testkitforfree.com to receive 8 COVID-19 tests.
We are the ones who
shipped
have to
you
start
at
doing
no
that.
cost. Just visit testkitforfree.com today. Paid for by Hero Health.
For years, the special interests got
We are the
whatever they
ones.
wanted in
We
Washington,
are the
and
ones.
Americans paid the price. That all changes right now because
So,
Congress just passed the
they have-
Inflation Reduction Act, and President Biden signed it into law. Here's what that
Okay,
means
we
for
do
you.
this.
First, Medicare can now finally
So-
negotiate lower prices for prescription drugs. Drugs
'Cause
like
they had a
insulin will
lot
cost a
of-
fraction of what they do today.
There were
the
a
days
lot
of drug
of,
companies price gouging seniors are over. Second, it builds on the
There were
Affordable
a
Care
lot
Act to
of, what
lower
was it,
healthcare premiums for 13 million Americans. And third, this bill includes the largest investment ever to take on climate change. Clean energy production will ramp
just-
up,
I'm sorry,
dependence for
wow.
fossil fuels will come way down, and new jobs will be created. The entire bill is paid for by making the biggest corporations and the ultra-wealthy pay their fair share, saving Americans money today, saving the planet for future generations tomorrow. Learn more at whitehouse.gov. paid for by House Majority Forward.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
The best people to fight for our communities.
We have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank
With
you.
his life, just doing his job as a Detroit bus driver.
This coronavirus is for real. And we out here as public workers doing our job, trying to make an honest living, to take care of our families. This is real, and y'all need to take this serious.
Coronavirus took Jason's life 11 days after he recorded that message. Blacks are twice as likely to die from the virus. Until this fight is over, the least we can do is to do our part and stay home for those who can't. Together, we can help beat this thing. If you must go out, be sure to social distance and wear masks and gloves in public places.
Okay,
For the sake of
Pastor,
our
it's
families,
great
our
being
friends,
with you today. I'm sorry,
and
I'm trying to
like
pull a
Jason.
couple of other things.
Handle your business.
Thank
I know how this
honey,
goes.
I know you do, and I just thank God that you know. Okay.
blackishuman.com.
Ooh.
Sarcoma. I know you've never heard that word before, but for the 40 people diagnosed with sarcoma every day,
Thank God, you know.
life-changing, devastating because sarcoma is cancer. Sarcoma is a cancer of bone and soft tissue more prevalent in children than in adults. More than 6,000 people lose their lives to sarcoma each year. Treatment options are limited, and new therapies are desperately needed. More research.
We have about 30 seconds.
Thank
it's going to
you.
be a fantastic show
Oh,
today.
bless your heart, Jewel. Thank you so much.
And research. The sarcoma
Praise the
Foundation
Lord. Let the words of our mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight. Oh Lord, our strength and our Redeemer, we just thank you for yet another day. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Please help us in the fight to find
Thank you.
sarcoma.
Thank you. Thank you.
5 seconds. Stand by.
Thank you.
In the work of the Sarcoma Foundation of America, please go to curesarcoma.org.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Well, it is Election Day, the midterms. Every house in the U.S. House of Representatives, every seat, rather, is up for grabs. 1/3 of the Senate, up for grabs. Governorships, more than 30 of them, up for grabs. Secretaries of State, attorneys general, prosecutors, judges, on and on and on. I voted yesterday. Yay. Went out and had the privilege of voting with my father and my brother, Jonathan, who's running for Congress. He'll be with us a little bit later. And Daley Ramirez will be back as well, State Representative Ramirez. People are running. People are running. People who've never sought office before. People who believe that the 2020 election was stolen. Others who are just seeking to serve. I mean, there's a lot going on out here. And I think that I hope that we will be patient tonight because all of the votes will not get in because we do not have a federalized voting system. Voting and the way the votes are, the timing of the tabulation of the votes, the timing, that's important to say that. It's uneven. So, some states don't start counting the absentee ballots until close of business today, until the polls close. Some have already started. So, you have to see. We're going to have to wait and we have to be patient. And I think it's something that we should just cool our jets and wait. But look tonight, interestingly enough, Republicans have in the past really leaned in on absentee voting. This time they've said, no, don't vote until the day of the election. That's going to be very interesting to see how they index. And many people, including the Sabato poll, which comes out of UVA, one of the most trusted polling concerns in the business, they say now Georgia is tilting Republican for Herschel Walker. So we'll just have to see. But polls don't vote, people do. So get out and vote today. I just spoke with someone who said here in Chicago, they waited 2 hours. People are voting all over the country. 43 million people almost have voted in the United States, breaking all kinds of records. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Let's get right to it. Today is going to be a beautiful day in Chicago, mostly sunny, 55 degrees, and Minneapolis, St. Paul, 52 degrees, scattered showers. I love you, WCPT 820, my home station here in Chicago, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you all to call us today, 773-763-927, 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-WCPT. I want to know what your thoughts are about today. Are you ready to wait? And I hope that you'll meet us over at the South Shore Cultural Center tonight as we have a watch party and as we hopefully have a celebration for Jonathan Jackson as he runs and all the people who are running today. There's so many very interesting races that are out here, but we are at 71st and South Shore Drive tonight starting at 6 p.m. It's going to be great music, big fun, and lots of TV sets so you can find out what's going on in Georgia and North Carolina and Arizona and California and from coast to coast. We will be looking at all of the races, including what's happening here in Illinois, which is very interesting. 8 billion humans and dwindling resources, everybody. 8 billion humans are now on planet Earth. This milestone will be reached on November 15th. Now, some people are saying that that's too many people on Earth. But you know, my pastor, Reverend Clay Evans, said, I've never seen God make a mouth he couldn't feed. You have a lot of greedy people who take too many resources from the rest of us. Welcome to the world, 8 billionth person, whoever you are, you belong here. If you weren't supposed to be here, God wouldn't have you here. In the NBA, the Bulls won 11, the Raptors 97, the Knicks 120. Well, they won over the Timberwolves. Better luck next time, everybody. The Ravens 27, the Saints 13, and the Wild will be playing the Kings tonight. Election day, everybody. Election day. Go to vote.org, vote.org. Find out your status. Yes, even as you're on your way to the polls. And then you can remedy that. We're going to be talking about that with attorney C.K. Hoffler. Whatever you do, just go to the polls and vote. And find out where you need to vote. You might go to a super site. You might go to a precinct in your area. Vote.org has that information for you. Also, if you have any trouble at the polls, inside the polls or just outside the polls, if you're being harassed, if you are just unsure, call 1-866-OUR-VOTE. 1-866-OUR-VOTE so that you can find out what you need to do. These are lawyers who are on standby. They will help you navigate this system, everybody. They will help you to navigate this system. This is a very important race. Everybody says these races are the most important that you'll ever vote on. Well, every race is very important. But now there's a lot. We're at an inflection point in the United States, and I think that we need to really take this very seriously. Of course, we think about House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who said that the recent attack on her husband, in which his skull was cracked in his home, will factor in her decision about her political future, sending much love to the Pelosi family. Wherever you stand politically, they deserve your prayers, everybody. And did you know, Pastor Stephen Thurston, that Americans are now hustling? They're looking for side hustles to combat inflation. But guess what else? Americans are also crossing the border, not to the north, but to the south. They're moving to Mexico to live. It is cheaper for many of us to live in Mexico. That's right. And 1 in 4 Americans can only afford to spend $100 on Thanksgiving. So guess what? A lot of Americans this year are going to skip Thanksgiving because they cannot afford it. So think about that as you look at how people are going to vote today, because people's margins are tight. They're tight. And of course, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson just continues to amaze. She came not to play, everybody. She issued her first dissent. She's been on the court about 2 weeks, and she issued her first dissent over Supreme Court refusal to hear a death Row Appeal. I'm Santita Jackson, and I'm so glad to have Pastor Stephen Thurston, who I plan to see a little bit later. Hopefully his parents, too, from New Covenant. Love him and love them and love Pastor Meeks and First Lady Jamel Meeks from Salem Baptist Church, where he is the teaching pastor. And it's great to hear your voice this morning. We need some good news. So much is going on, Pastor Thurston. Oh, my God.
So much is going on.
Every day.
Well, the good news that I have for us today, especially in light of it being election day, is that it's okay to accept people as is. Listen, we can sometimes have difficulty accepting our friends or family and loved ones as they are, with their habits, their quirks, or their behavior that annoys us. Our natural tendency is to try to change what we don't like about them, which often leads to a point of resentment. Nonetheless, given their importance and presence in our lives, we are usually willing to make an effort to accept them as is or as they are. But Santita, what about people that we dislike? People who cause us grief. For example, that overbearing boss that you're in the car headed to work with right now, that scheming coworker, that annoying relative that you'll sit at the Thanksgiving table with, or someone who holds an opposing political view from ours. Should we also make an effort to accept them as is? Now, I can hear it in people's minds right now. Nope, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to have anything to do with them. But before you decline to do so, consider that when we don't accept people as they are, the adverse consequences for ourselves can be not so pleasant. Now, one immediate consequence is that we'll become prone to engage them in combative, retaliatory ways. And TikTok is full of videos showing how often that doesn't end well for people. Here's the problem. We often equate acceptance with surrender, being weak and excusing bad behavior. But true acceptance has nothing to do with surrender, backing down, or condoning bad behavior. Further, acceptance does not mean that you need to be passive or give up your principles and values that are important to you. Rather, true acceptance means accepting people and things as they are without judgment or harboring negative feelings, such as fear, anger, or resentment. Acceptance actually induces a critical shift in focus from what you are powerless to change or do to what you can do to better serve your needs. In short, accepting what is can be a great stress reliever. So, Stephen, how do I get there? How do I move towards accepting what is, especially regarding people I dislike? Well, that's a great question, and I'm so glad that you asked this morning. Let's begin with understanding that practicing acceptance with people you dislike is challenging. We got to lay that as the foundation. It is often a process that evolves over time and in which incremental steps are fruitful. So what I'm saying is that I can't guarantee that Thanksgiving dinner is going to go off without a hitch just because you take heed to all that I say today. But here are a few keys that will facilitate the process. Number one, I want you to process your fears. Unprocessed fear prevents acceptance because it dominates our thoughts instead of allowing us to make the choices that serve us best. It helps considerably to examine the objective reality of the person or situation you're dealing with, rather than be guided by negative speculations about what might happen and what could be. I want you to face and lean into your fears. And as you do so, processing your fears will loosen their hold over you and your thinking considerably. And viable options and choices will then be revealed to you. The second thing I want you to do is to diffuse your anger. In much the same manner, our anger and resentment towards people we dislike obstructs acceptance. It softens the edge of our resentment if we try to see things from the other person's perspective. And here's the thing. Most times, people's behavior is based on their fear, their anxiety, and self-interest, and not any intent to harm us. Third and finally, look for the good. Most times we're so engulfed in the turmoil with these people that we dislike that we can't see the positive influence that they have had on our lives. recognizing the good things the other person has added to your life is helpful in removing some of the anger and then pushing you to the place of being able to accept them for the person that they actually are in totality. So moving forward, here's what you're going to do. You're going to process your fear and anger, not take what they do personally, recognize the fears and anxieties that drive them, pause, reflect, and think objectively, not assume and attempt to harm you, set appropriate boundaries, and then finally be true to yourself. And in doing these things, you'll feel less annoyed, more grounded, and more focused on taking care of your needs. And the gifts of acceptance will be yours. That's the good news today. You can accept people.
But I love that because particularly now, we are in a time that, just a time that's socially quite volatile. And we're not accepting other people. There's a lot of name calling, a lot of demonization, I would say all the way around the political spectrum. And that to me is very disturbing. I have my principles and I have my political views and I can get quite excited about it. I mean, look, I can get turned up, everybody. But one of the things that I try to do is step back because you need to get on the other side of what you say to someone. You need to get on the other side of what you think of someone. You need to get on the other side of that. And, I think, Pastor, that could help you a lot too. Before you accuse someone, think of what it would feel like for you to be accused. Right.
That's right.
Before you call someone a name, before you speak to someone in a way that is designed to hurt somebody. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get that dig in. How would you feel if you were on the other side of that? You know what I'm saying? Like, how would you wouldn't feel great. And particularly, give me the application for what you just said to where we are right now as a society. Because, we've had almost 43 million Americans vote. More than 53 million absentee ballots are out. I mean, you're going to have maybe 100 million people who will vote. I mean, that's a lot, if not more, because Republicans now have said that they're telling everybody to wait until today to vote. So we're going to see, only heaven knows what we're going to see. I'm glad everybody's voting. That having been said, how do you apply that to where we are now as a society? Accepting people because people can also be quite mean. Laughing about Nancy Pelosi's husband nearly being killed at home. Whatever you believe about that, there's nothing funny about it. There's nothing funny about her husband, her children's father, her grandchildren's grandfather being attacked and lying in a pool of his own blood in their bedroom. There's nothing funny about that. Nothing. I don't care where you are politically. And if you think it's funny, shame on you. What if it were your father, your husband, your loved one? Please help me to apply this to where we are right now. This is where the gospel the good news has to get real for me.
That's right. Listen, you bring up a very valid point in this question that you asked. And we have to recognize that casting a vote is not equivalent to a Valentine. When we engage in Valentine's, it's about love and in keeping some connection forever. Casting a vote is based upon our principles and our perspective, our hope and our desire for what community, society should look like. And we have to be mature enough in the space and place of where we are and what literally tomorrow, is going to present to us. But we recognize that even if I didn't get my way, I still have an opportunity to move through the earth realm, to move through this space, showing love, care, and compassion, the same love, care, and compassion I would want to receive from any and everyone as just basically a human being. Laws, policies, they change on a regular basis. We do our best to make our voice heard, and then we accept what the end result is, and we navigate, we shift. That's what life is about, shifting and maneuvering and contouring and making the best out of the hand that's dealt to us. We've been doing this throughout humanity, and it shouldn't be odd, if things don't go our way, that we then have to resort to acts of violence that, like you just mentioned with Ms. Pelosi. It shouldn't be that way. We have to be human beings functioning in love, care, and kindness towards other human beings, even if things don't go our way. One day they might.
Mm-hmm.
One day we'll be on the other opposite side. And again, what we want to receive is what we got to give.
Amen to that. Because, I saw a movie that it was of course about it was about the British royal family and about the crisis around how they handled the death of Diana, Princess of Wales. And Tony Blair, who was the new Prime Minister of Great Britain, who really pushed the Queen, you need to get out front with people, you can't be behind these walls. She's like, I'm trying to care for my grandson. He's like, I hear you, but no, people need to see you. This is creating a crisis for the monarchy. Long story short, when the crisis was averted, when she came out and spoke to the public and said, I'm a grandmother, this is what I was trying to do, and it kind of cooled the temperatures.
Yes.
She said she apparently, this was, of course, a depiction of their meeting afterwards. And he sat with her and she said, but son, you will not son, but Mr. Prime Minister, one day you will have your turn. In other words, for your audience, for your public to turn on you, and you will be in crisis. And indeed, it did happen to him. That if you keep on living, you keep on living, you make some trips around the sun.
The table's gonna turn.
Oh boy, that's what the trip around the sun is about. Because the tables turn. Yeah. What did Reverend Evans say? You're either going into a storm, you're in a storm, or you're coming out of one.
Yes, coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and, and that is that. So, in this season, everybody, please remember the wise words of Pastor Stephen Thurston. His book, You Need More Than Ever, Mirror Moments. Take a look at yourself. I don't care whether you're Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Independent, unaffiliated, whatever. Think about that today. Because as my father often said, we came over here in different ships, but we're in the same boat now. We're all Americans. That's it. Just stop it. Stop the cancel culture, all that foolishness. Stop it. Stop. You ain't gonna cancel anybody. God didn't cancel you, and you've done things that have offended God. How about that? Enough. I'm tired of that. And you don't have the right to demand that anybody do anything. Just shut up and you live your life. You advocate for your thing. And I mean that all across the board. There's a whole lot of canceling going on, and I'm sick of it. If you don't like somebody in their position, then just go past them. You're not gonna make anybody do anything. You are not gonna punk a grown person. How about that? Yeah, I said it. So I will see you tonight. Are you going to be on Facebook Live this afternoon?
Yes, I'll be on 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on my Facebook page, Stephen Thurston. You can catch me there.
With the PH, and of course, when you do that, you get the book Mirror Moments. Please reach out and get that. What are you going to be talking about today? I've got about 10 seconds.
Oh, we're going to be talking about something similar to what we talked about this morning.
Praise the
Helping
Lord.
people to stay in this space of accepting people. I'm trying to promote peace and kindness today.
I love my Pastor Stephen Thurston. Can't wait to see you tonight. And love you, everybody. Love you, love you, love you. Let's love each other. Even if we don't like each other, let's love each other. Back with more. Midterms, everybody. Come on. Let's talk about it on the Santita Jackson Show. Thank you, Pastor Thurston. I really enjoyed that today. I needed that. I don't know about you all. I am so tired of everybody. And just this, it's become so mean-spirited out here. Not that it wasn't, because I have to tell you, I've dealt with that practically all of my life. But, at some point, it's like, enough already. Enough. And you're not going to win hearts and minds doing any of this stuff. How about that? You're not going to win any hearts and minds. None. And maybe that's not the point. Maybe our egos are so wrapped up in all of this that we need to win. And you don't win. You don't win when somebody else loses. Everybody's got to get something out of the deal, whatever it is. People, that's how we win. When everybody feels like no one wants, and who wants to feel like a loser, right? I might not have won, but give me something, right? Consolation prize, something. So anyway, I do hope that you all will be voting. I hope that you have voted. And I hope that you'll meet us tonight if you're in the Chicago area, Morning Stars, at the South Shore Cultural Center at 71st and South Shore Drive. It's right at the end of South Shore Drive at 71st Street, right before the railroad tracks. It used to be the South Shore Country Club. And when they finish regentrifying the area, it will be a country club once again. That having been said, I really, 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 really hope that you'll join us tonight starting at 6 o'clock. It's going to be great. And I'm looking forward to seeing you there. We're going to have some singing. Yes. Some great music. Yes. Watching these results. Yes. All of that. It's going to be wonderful. Hey, Matt, I wish you were up here. You love my glasses, my purple glasses? Is it because it's purple rain? My Minnesota brother. Everybody likes these glasses, and I haven't worn them in like forever, but I've got glasses in all these readers in all kinds of colors. And why not? I guess I'll just start wearing them all. I love them. I love my glasses. I love them. Thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you like them. My mother actually liked them too. Wow. So there is that. But I'm really glad to be with you all today. Matt, did you vote already? Let me know. Let me know if you voted. Well, if you're going to be voting today. Now, a lot of people, I'm glad I went with my dad yesterday, because actually I was going to go today, and he said, let's get this over with. I said, okay, I'll go with you. And we went to a super site and got it done, because there were lines there too. But I mean, they were handling it very, very efficiently. I went to 43rd and King Drive here in Chicago, and they were so wonderful to us. And, but there are no buts. They were wonderful, and they handled everything beautifully. The challenge, though, is that people are voting. As of yesterday, almost 43 million Americans, 43 million had voted. So I'm very, very happy about that. Jewel, who do we have up, hon? Oh. I hear someone, something.
We have about 30 seconds or so. We have Miss Wells, Attorney Connolly, and I accidentally just dropped Attorney C.K. Hoffler, but I'm going to get her back on. That was that noise.
Okay, what about Bishop Grant?
No, not yet.
Okay, just let me know when you get him on. Thank you so much.
Will do.
Okay, great.
All right, stand by. We have about 5 seconds.
Okay.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Have you voted? Are you voting? Please go to vote.org so you can find out where you can vote, find out what your status is. Even if you've been purged from the rolls, still go and vote. Still go and vote today. That's what Attorney Darrell Jones told us yesterday. Get a provisional ballot, but you got to go on and vote today. Today is the day to vote. It's going to be very interesting. Democrats have voted, overwhelmingly in this early voting phase. But now Republicans, as a tactic, they have said that they're going to be voting overwhelmingly today. So we're going to have to see. We could have what they call a phantom red wave, but maybe it was a phantom blue wave. We don't know what's going to happen. But we do know that you need to get out and vote and make your voice heard. With the $900 million plus that billionaires have poured into these races, this is a day when all things are equal. Your vote matters as much as Jeff Bezos's vote, even as he might have shaped your thinking. Your vote is that's why they spend all that money, because all these little votes add up. It's like all the little bricks in a building. They all add up and they give you a building. So get out and vote, everybody. 773-763-9278. I want to hear what your thoughts are. And what are the big races? What are you expecting to see? Let's talk about that. And we're going to get into the mechanics of what's happening even in Illinois and all around the country with Deputy Governor Luanna Peters at the top of the hour. Someone we don't hear a lot about her, but talk about a force in American politics, in Chicago, state, and federal politics. We don't even know that we've had a black woman who's been a deputy governor, right? Before Juliana Stratton was the lieutenant governor, she was the deputy governor. And so I can't wait to hear from her. And of course, Terry O'Neill, the former national president of the National Organization of Women, will be joining Attorney C.K. Hoffler, and we'll be having Attorney Connolly floating in and out, because she's going to go vote with State Representative Delia Ramirez, who's going to call in and give us a little highlight. We're going to try and reach out to Jonathan Jackson today. Got a lot to talk about. And Pennsylvania State Senator Vincent Hughes going to let us know what's happening there. John Nichols, of course. Told you, got a packed show. So let's get right to it. Chaparral, I am ready for, I don't know, what am I going to have for Thanksgiving? Am I going to have ham or a little bit of turkey, oxtails? I don't know.
No, you ordered some Cornish hens and dressing and mac and cheese, and you're gonna have some greens and green beans, some fried corn, and I'll probably throw you some a little dessert in there as well. So definitely give us a call at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. We are currently taking Thanksgiving orders, as well as also all of your decor needs. A lot of people are doing Friendsgiving, where they're setting up their table settings a week before. So we are still doing that as well. We can do balloon arches, as well as also your floral arrangements. So don't hesitate to give us a call, 708-526-4546. And we do decorate houses as well. We do tree setups. We've done Santita's trees and her wreaths. So please don't hesitate to give us a call for that as well. 708-526-4546. We look forward to serving you. And don't forget to vote today, people. We need your vote.
Absolutely. You got to do my Christmas this year, too, because I want something festive. But I don't know if I want trees this year. I just want festive. You know what I mean? I'm just the trees. I think I kept them up straight through COVID, and I'm like over my trees, over them. But all right, everybody, celebrations by us. But let's get right to it. We have Attorney C.K. Hoffler and Attorney Aaron Connolly. We have got to take the 30,000 foot view of what's happening with the vote, and getting down in the weeds. What's happening in Arizona? What's happening in Illinois? Because it seems like the governor, J.B. Pritzker here, he's running real hard. But you remember, there's Chicago and there's Illinois. And you need to understand, there's Atlanta and there's Georgia. There's New York City and there's New York State. And a lot of California's farmland. So is Illinois. And so we just have to understand that America is a mix. That's why we have to become much more patient with each other and much more embracing of each other. So everybody, please call me at 773-763-WCPT. I want to know what your thoughts are about this election period. Let me start with you, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, because we are looking at voter protections. Of course, we've seen people carrying the guns and at the drop boxes, and we've heard now the Department of Justice is they've targeted 64 areas where they are literally going to be present. I mean, that's why you needed Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, right? For pre-clearance, so that you could find out these places historically that had problems or that might just have some problems now. You needed to watch over them. And now the Department of Justice is having to do that anyway. What do you do? I mean, what is that saying, just 30,000 foot view? What is that saying about where we are with America when there's so much voter intimidation? And then how do you handle it on the ground? I mean, what do you do?
Good morning, Santita, and to everyone. It's election day, and we have to vote despite the voter suppression. So what do you do? So what do you do when you're in a state where there are people that, not when you're inside the voting station, but outside meeting you with guns? What do you do? What you do is get to a safe place. Because when people have guns, they're not playing. No matter what they say, no matter what they think, they're not playing. And people carry guns because they intend to if they need to use guns. And in states like Florida, which is in your ground state, they just need to say, well, I felt threatened. I don't know. This person was threatening me, and they will shoot to kill. So you need to get in a safe place and take a picture and escalate it up. Call 1-866-R-VOTE. 1-866-R-VOTE. That is tied into the election protection effort where people are protecting voters. It's very important to escalate it up. If you really feel very threatened and intimidated, this is the one time, even for those who have some feelings about the police, that you should call 911 and report it. Because voter intimidation is illegal. A lot of things are illegal, but they happen. But it's really illegal. And this is a place where law enforcement will, can, should, and usually are your friend. So that's what you do if there's physical, like there are guns and things like that, and you feel intimidated, and people are yelling things at you with guns. That's one level. Second level, if people are just heckling you, talking to you, just like anything else. You want to de-escalate because today people are crazy. They have what? Guns. So you don't want to get into an altercation. But you should go to the election officials who are there. Now, sometimes the election officials are the problem, and that's another issue. But assuming the election officials are not a problem, meaning the people who are there at the voting stations who are organizing the effort, and you may know them because a lot of times you're voting in your community, you should report that. Don't just sit and take it, but document it. Take a picture. Record it. If they're yelling at you, record it and escalate it up to 1-866-R-VOTE. Most importantly, be aware of your surroundings. When you're walking in, just like any other time, when you sense danger, there is danger. So be aware of your surroundings because this is the time we have a very divided country and people are feeling some kind of way, progressives and conservatives, some kind of way. There's some people who feel like the Democrats are again going to try to steal the election. And there's some people who feel like the Republicans are doing everything they can to steal the elections. And people are very, very, very serious about that. So that means that there is an escalation of feeling. And people are feeling really, really uneasy. And if you have people in your faith community that you know who are predisposed to come out, call them. Please call them. They have a way of de-escalating the situation. They did that during the presidential elections. If there was one entity that, and I focus, Santita, on the role that Reverend plays all the time. He's protesting, he's making a difference, but he's also a peacemaker, meaning de-escalating by his very presence. Faith leaders can de-escalate by their very presence, redirect the energy. And for some reason, people of all faiths, or even if they don't believe, somehow faith leaders have a way of de-escalating. So those would be the tools that you have in your war chest. But it starts with you being aware of your surroundings. Take nothing for granted. Sometimes voting can be dangerous. It has been dangerous in the past. I don't want to say it's dangerous everywhere, but it can be. And if you feel the danger, you got to go into action. This is not the time to be intellectual about it, pontificate about it. Go into action and protect yourself and your loved ones by some of the things that I have suggested. I'm here in Georgia, and just like you said, Santita, Atlanta is not the rest of Georgia. Mm-mm. And so what happens in Atlanta, which is pretty bad, by the way, in terms of voter suppression, in the rural communities where people may not have access to a whole lot of tools, there might be more intimidation, but there are groups that are out there protecting the people so that they feel like they can vote. There are election protection lawyers that are there in many, many communities. Organizations like Rainbow Push, Transformative Justice Coalition, the People's Agenda, Black Voters Matter. They're all in many communities, and they have paved the way so that you can feel safe when you vote. But see, you've got to control your body. And when you sense something, don't ignore it. Take action to protect yourself and have your camera. That's the most powerful tool is your phone. 1-866-R-VOTE. And before you roll over to vote, just check your voting status. changethevote.org. Just check it just in case something funky has happened. So you can report an effort even today. So you have the right to vote. You didn't move, you got to report it. So by the time you get to that voting station, you will be able to vote. Don't accept the provisional ballot when you know that you rightly should be able to vote. But know that before you get to your voting station. Know where you're supposed to be to vote. All of that is critical today. Whether you're in Georgia, New York, Iowa, Wisconsin, wherever you are in the country, it's critical.
Amen to that. I mean, because that's very, very important. But it's, as you said, it's important not to physically engage people. You know, in the 50s and 60s, I know when it's not when the civil rights movement was. It's because it was a very, very small minority of people who participated in that. But there were training sessions. Reverend Jim Lawson and others would train you about how to react when someone physically provoked you, when they dumped sugar on your head, for example, while you were at the Woolworths counter, when someone punched you in the face, when people physically dragged you, because they did that. They did that. I mean, it was so insulting to see our grandmothers and mothers and sisters dragged so that their skirts were above their heads and you could see their undergarments. It was a horrible thing. And it's a horrible thing today. So just remember, nonviolence is a strength, and it's a tactic. It's a tactic, and that is a weapon, and you need to use it. Do not be provoked. Just vote. Aaron Connolly. Now, you know, as we talk about voter intimidation, we have to look at a place where you spent a lot of time. I know I've kind of needled you about it and had some fun, but you know, let me ask you this before I even get into, you know, how people are voting in Arizona. I know you explained it before, but Arizona seems so far away from the rest of us, seems so isolated, and yet it is central to this campaign. Culturally, what is going on out there? Because we got Barry Goldwater out of Arizona. We got John McCain out of Arizona. It seems that you have a real strong libertarian bent out there, very independent. You know, I'm a settler. Don't tread on me. Don't bother me. I want to go my own way. What's going on out there? Because Carrie Lake voted for President Obama, but people flip. And now she's a staunch Trumpite. But that's not really surprising because people float. They do. I mean, depending upon what they feel a candidate will give them. What's going on out there? And what would happen, say, if Carrie Lake became the governor? Someone who refuses to say, you know, if I lose, the race wasn't stolen. I mean, what would that look like? What is that? What would that be like, Aaron?
It's a little bit scary, and I will tell you. Sorry for any background noise. I'm running around early this morning to make sure Representative, future Congresswoman Ramirez is all set for her day. So sorry about the noise. But thanks for bringing up Arizona because it was at the top of my mind this morning.
Why was it at the top of your mind this morning?
Well, because we've done, since I was there, I moved out there in 2011, immediately started working for President Obama's reelection campaign. And what I've always been proud of about working in Arizona was the deep, deep organizing work and progressive values that we planted there as further back. You know, there were organizers way before in 2008, but it really started taking hold in 2014, 2015. We went into a big coalition push to oust Joe Arpaio, to get some of these predatory leaders that have had power for so long in Maricopa County, which is one of the largest counties in the United States, and where we see
where the Justice Department is going there right now. They're having to go to Maricopa County.
For good reason. And there is still this Wild West mentality. There is a libertarian independent bent. But ultimately, what it is, you know, I've seen the best of people, the best of humanity working in Arizona, and some of the most frustrating, right? I'm not going to call it the worst because I don't like to label things like that. I believe everyone is capable of redemption. But when we look at what's at stake in Arizona, the union movement, from teachers to other folks who made sure that we organized for our school system. Arizona has some of the worst schools in the nation and the lowest per pupil spending. We continue to give tax breaks to wealthy individuals to send their kids to school of choice instead of investing in one of the most terrible education situations in the country. Big reason why I'm glad we're not there, because they do not support special needs students in a way that is okay, right? So that's at stake. We look at women's health care and what's at stake for women in Arizona. A lot of Arizona is a complex state with many different types of populations. We have a large Native American community and tribal community there that exist in their own nation, right? And we see Arizona has not always supported them in the way that they've needed. The late John McCain was a great supporter and made sure that those folks were left behind as best as he could. And it's one of the areas that we found common ground to work together with Republicans within the state. There's been enormous improvement with regard to allocation of resources for Native communities, but we can do more. And I woke up worried about Arizona because I see all my friends, I see the candidates that are friends and colleagues that have worked so hard, that have done this deep work, and have been, hijacked by some of this distraction around this myth of the stolen election. Mark Fincham, who is running against Adrian Fontes for Secretary of State, still believes that this election was stolen, and he is a January 6th insurrectionist. This could be the person in charge of the elections for the entire state of Arizona. We have Carrie Lake, who just floats down the lake with whatever direction the wind takes her, right? She only is out for herself. Her positions have no real policy roots at all. She goes on the whims of whatever President Trump says is, literally vacuuming his red carpet as a stunt. She's full of stunts and nonsense. And the dangerous thing is she has a real shot at winning. I believe that Katie Hobbs, who I've known for many years, who is an amazing public servant, mother, social worker, she's been on the ground with us at every fight, at every press conference, when we're fighting for healthcare, when we're fighting for immigration rights, when we're fighting against climate change. This is a woman who has stood up and rooted herself in her community. She's done the work. She shows up. She is absolutely capable of being governor. And when I compare her to somebody like Carrie Lake and think that this is a possibility for my friends that live in Arizona, I get scared. I get scared with what's at stake and with the power that she has in that office. So,
but we're seeing that.
Praying, but we don't know what this 33% independent vote is going to do.
But I think that's America right now. That's America, and there's much more going on than white nationalism. That's part of it. White racism. That's part of it. That's just a part of it, though. I keep going back to 2008, Aaron and CK, and watching the economy collapse. And people are now, 1 in 4 Americans are not going to have Thanksgiving this year because they can't afford it. See, that's where we are. And if we don't look at those issues, if we don't look at the fact that most people cannot go to the emergency room, forget urgent care. People wait till they need, people don't have enough money. So you go to the emergency room when it's, you live with pain. Most Americans are doing that every day. And I think that if we have to address the root issues, because we keep looking at the fruit and then they fall and they're rotten on the ground. We got to look at what's really happening out here. But I've got about 3 minutes before we go to break. And I'm going to let you go and then I'll bring you back on so you can bring on State Representative Ramirez, because I knew I was grabbing you today because I know you've got a lot to do. What about people who are physically challenged and they're voting? When I went to a place, because now my father's physically challenged, we were able to go up a ramp, and it was very easy for him to get in this place. And not because he's Jesse Jackson, it's because the place that they chose as a super site, it's easy for people who are physical challenges, who are in wheelchairs or walkers or what have you, who've broken a leg, who might be temporarily challenged. Well, guess what? When you break that leg and you start trying to figure out some stairs, you will have another kind of feeling about people who have to do this every day throughout their lives. What about the challenges that people have? What about people who are blind? I mean, what rights do you have as a voter, Aaron?
Well, you have the right for full accommodations to make sure that you can vote with whatever disability you are living with. And what we see in states like Texas, like Arizona, there's some new voting machines that make it really difficult for people that that don't have full use of their arms and need to hold their arms up for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So in that scenario, what you are able to do, and this is where it gets a little dicey for everyone, is you can ask one of the poll workers to assist you with your vote. If there is an issue where you say to the poll worker, I am asking you to vote, let's say, a full Democratic ticket, and they do not do that and you see it, you need to call 866-R-VOTE immediately. So far, we haven't, and CK, chime in if I'm wrong, but I haven't heard of anyone doing that is going against the will of the voter. But as we see some of these poll workers and election judge positions become more politicized, when we see some of the folks from January 6th that were at the Capitol bragging about how they're working at the poll site, we have to make sure that folks with disabilities are able to vote the way that they want. So you are able to have a helper if you don't bring someone with you, which you are allowed to do in many states with this accommodation. The very least, you should be able to get in the building. If that's an issue, again, that's another 866-R-VOTE. Most of these places are very well vetted and fully compliant with ADA regulations to ensure people can get in with mobility devices, things like that. What we're more concerned about is the use of these new machines and whether or not you can fully exercise your right to vote. The old machines, most people could handle because it was a very short distance. You just had to kind of put your finger a couple inches, right? And you didn't have to hold your arm up for long periods of time. Some of these new machines do not allow a comfortable setting for folks that have some mobility issues. So if that happens, please call 866-R-VOTE and report it anyway, because by the next election, we need to make sure that these machines are accessible for everyone, not just the majority.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to spend more time in the next few days talking about it. And, I promise you, I pledge to you, going forward, that will be a feature of our election protection coverage, okay? As long as I have this platform, we will do that. Well, look, hey, I broke my leg some years ago, and trying to figure out how to even get into the house was like, oh my gosh. You start eyeing buildings, CK and Aaron, warily, because you're like, okay, will I be able to get in here? I don't know if I can. And that's a real thing. What if you're losing your vision? And it could be temporary, it could be permanent. People need to know that you are allowed to bring someone into the booth with you to help you. My brother Jonathan had to help our father yesterday because he has some mobility issues with his hands. He keeps on moving. One of the poll workers, came to me and she said, when a couple of years ago, he walked in here. I said, well, he was in the hospital a couple of weeks ago. And so now, when he misses therapy, this is what happened. I said, but he keeps on going, and I didn't want her to feel sad. And don't feel sad. Don't feel sorry for him. In life, we all have something, and you just have to deal with it and keep on moving. And thank God we are a family, and we do it together. How about that, everybody? So you know what? I can't wait to speak with you and State Representative, soon to be Congresswoman-elect, Delia Ramirez. I'm going to try and get Jonathan Jackson on here today. We're going to be talking with Pennsylvania State Senator Vincent Hughes in this hour to find out what's happening there. We're going to be talking with John Nichols and Deputy Governor Luanna Peters. That's right. We've had an African-American woman who's been the deputy governor of the state, but she's also one of the top political operatives, really, of the past 50 years. I cannot wait to get her analysis, and of course, attorney C.K. Hoffler and attorney Terry O'Neill. Stay right here. It's the packed Santita Jackson show right here on Election Day, everybody. Vote, 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 vote. Back in just a minute. Aaron, we will call you back. Aaron?
Yes, I was just going to ask if you wanted me. I figured you need the line back. So,
I do need the line back.
Be ready at.
Would it be okay
if be ready at 7:30?
Is it possible to do it a little bit earlier?
Probably. I will be there in about 10 minutes. So
Okay.
are you available? Can I text you? Just
Yes,
to make sure.
and
But
you-
I will be available. So
Absolutely.
you're more than welcome to call me, and I can get her on when she's ready. But
Okay,
I should be fine.
fantastic. And you know what? And Jewel, I will text you, and we'll work it out that way. Because I do want to get her on.
Thank you so much.
Oh no, please, you don't have to thank me. I want her to at least have a nice quick hit. Just for a couple of minutes, okay? Because I know, and thank you for
Last
making the sacrifice to be with us
push.
today.
Oh, never a sacrifice to be with you. I love you. Love your morning stars. It's an honor to talk with everyone on election day. I'm what the kids call nervous sighted. I don't know how everybody else feels, but
I know how you feel.
nervous sighted, as John says. All right. Talk to you soon.
Okay, in a few. Absolutely.
Good morning.
Hey, Deputy Governor, how are you?
I am well. It's early, but I'm well.
I know you have had it, and I said, I know she's not be speaking to me. I've got the chairman of the board of Rainbow Push and the former president of the National Bar Association. Indeed, she's that's the largest and oldest black bar association. I don't need to tell you any of that. And she's also now a legal analyst on Court TV. Attorney C.K. Hoffler. This is Deputy Governor Luanna Peters, the woman who got me my first apartment.
How are you?
How are you? Okay.
I'm great. I'm just so honored to be on with you today. I mean, I'm feeling some kind of way. I started with the Lord's Prayer again, Santita. Before I was sounding like Lord, groaning and moaning. Now I just went to the Lord's Prayer, which I should have gone to anyway.
Hello.
But I'm just feeling some kind of way here in Georgia. I'm just letting you know. I'm feeling some kind of
What
way.
are you feeling? Because we're on Facebook Live right now.
Right. I'm feeling that this could go either way. I don't trust what people are saying. It really could go either way. It's a tight race. What I know is from listening to what people are in the street saying, voters, not what the media saying, what the voters are saying. A lot of people are turning out for Raphael Warnock. A lot of people are turning out for Stacey Abrams. A lot of people, however, are also turning out for Brian Kemp and for Herschel Walker.
Yeah. And
it's such a tight race that no one can really call it.
Well, you know what, Larry Sabato,
And a lot of
from UVA, his center on politics, he has now moved from it tilting toward Raphael Warnock to from that to being a toss-up to leaning Republican.
Hey, Miss Jackson.
Yes, dear.
Did you want me to call your brother?
Because I know
Let me try and reach him.
I will say,
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
It's a tight race. It's a very tight race. That should
Thank you for reminding me, Jewel.
In terms of,
Oh no,
in
you all
terms
keep
of the
talking.
Senate,
I'm trying to reach him.
And we have Attorney O'Neill is on.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Hey, sweetie.
And-
Can I get you on real quick? Okay, well,
and
Jewel will call you
Walker
now.
He's not
Okay,
just
thank you.
campaigning
Jewel?
for himself.
Yes.
You can call him now.
Okay. All right, I'll do that.
Okay.
I mean, it's very clear. He's doing anti-Biden campaign ads. He's no longer campaigning anti-Raphael Warnock. He's doing anti-Biden campaign ads.
Well, that's awful, but it's smart because Biden's numbers are so bad. I mean, we have to look at one of the things I learned about working, in politics, because I come out of the church and the movement, but when I was in college, I went to work for Congressman Gus Savage, which meant I went to work for Deputy Governor Peters. And I learned a whole lot because even as an intern, they threw us, thank you, Deputy Governor, in the middle of everything. I had to track the committee. I was like, wait, I'm in college. And track the committee, and I expect this, that, and the other from you. And it was a fantastic experience. But I got a chance to
You were
see.
able to accomplish it, because we expected it. You were able to do it.
And you did expect it, and you didn't play. Plus, she's militaristic in her approach, so she frightened everybody in the
All right.
office.
Miss
Love her.
Jackson, we have all guests on for this segment.
Including Jonathan Jackson, one of her mentees?
Yes.
Okay. Candidate Jackson. And then we've got Attorney Terry O'Neill,
Yes.
Former past national president of civil rights lawyer, past national president of National Organization of Women. But Jonathan, we've got Deputy Governor Peters on with us, Luanna Peters.
Congratulations, Congressman.
Oh, thank you. And thank you, Lieutenant Governor Miss Luanna Peters. Love you.
Love you. All right.
Congratulations. Love you. You know,
Thank you.
Everybody's excited.
We got CK and we got Attorney Terry O'Neill, all of our friends here.
Thank you. Hey, Attorney Terry. How are you, Attorney O'Neill?
Hey, how's it going?
Excellent. Thank you.
I just
I
wanted
don't
to
get a special mention, Jonathan. This is CK.
Love you, CK. I think we got grounded in there.
What kind of situation do we have here? What type of situation?
No. You are my counselor friend. Come on, CK. Don't you do me. You know I need you. I'll apologize.
Come on.
I'll leave you and come to Atlanta and apologize. Don't.
No need. I just have to mess with you. I'm so proud of you. Really so proud of you on so many different levels.
Oh my gosh.
And
thank you for your support, CK, and friendship.
Just really, you know, it's just wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. We knew you were going to win. We knew, but you know, the thing about this, you claim the victory, but you never take
30 seconds.
And that is amazing. And look, the people of Illinois and the people in this country they have no idea how blessed that they are going to be with your presence. Maybe they do have an idea. But whatever their idea is, you're surpassing that. You already have surpassed that and you're going to.
We have about 10 seconds.
Okay.
Stand by.
Stand by, everybody.
I'm grateful.
Stand by, everybody. We're coming in. I'm going to abbreviate this stuff so that we can. Thank you so much. Okay.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, the second hour. Tuesday, November 8th, 2022, the day we've all been waiting for, the 2022 midterms. Have you voted, everybody? Hope that you are voting today. More than 43 million Americans have voted thus far as of yesterday. 53 million people will be voting by mail. And how many people will be voting today? That is a GOP tactic. They are saying, you know what? Typically, we vote by mail, absentee in advance. But no, this year we're going to vote on Election Day. So it ought to be a very, very exciting day. Please go to vote.org and find out where you need to vote. Find out if you are still registered to vote. If you have been purged from the rolls, still go to the polls. That's what you need to do and cast your vote anyway. You can get a provisional ballot. That is not what we prefer, but we need you to call 1-866-OUR-VOTE, 1-866-OUR-VOTE if you find out you've been purged. Follow the instructions of the lawyers. How about that? 1-866-OUR-VOTE. And I'm coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Hey, Matt, have you voted today? Call us at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. Everybody get on out there and be the maybe 100 million plus people who might vote today. It's going to be fantastic. I want you to know in Chicago, we're going to have a beautiful day. No excuses, everybody. Mostly sunny, a high of 55 degrees. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 52 degrees. Scattered showers, but still get out there and vote, everybody. In the NBA, the Bulls were triumphant over the Raptors, the Knicks were triumphant over the Timberwolves, and the Ravens 27, the Saints 13, and the Wild will be playing the Kings tonight. 42 million Americans have already voted. Are you voting? All seats in the U.S. House of Representatives are up for grabs. 1/3 of the U.S. Senate up for grabs. More than 30 seats as the governorships in the United States up for grabs. Secretaries of state, attorneys general, prosecutors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The judges. Please vote down ballot, everybody. These things are up for grabs, everybody. Even as we have a subtropical storm, Nicole, that's on track, that's approaching the United States. from Florida to Georgia, but you still need to get out and vote, everybody. I want you to vote today. Vote today. Vote today, everybody. 773-763-9278. As we look at 8 billion people in the world as of November 15th. Wow, 8 billion people. Ketanji Brown Jackson issued her first dissent regarding a death penalty case because the court refused to hear it, and she objects. She is on a roll, everybody. And as we get to the rest of the show, I want you to know we've been talking about financial freedom on this show, and I want you to reach out to Team Hochberg, so you can build your credit, rebuild your credit, eliminate credit card debt, get a credit card. We want you to get away from that debit card. You need a credit card. If you want a reverse mortgage, if you want to find out what that's about, if you need to get an FHA loan or a VA loan, if you've been turned down for those loans before, if you need to get down that credit card debt, don't negotiate with these credit card companies yourself. Let Team Hochberg do that for you. Reach out to them at 855-56 David, 855-56-DAVID, or go to 56david.com and find out what you need to do. They will give you a free consultation, and it will put you on the road to financial freedom. Tom and Sonia did it. They had 17 credit cards, $100,000 worth of debt. They were struggling to pay their mortgage. They reached out to Team Hochberg. Team Hochberg said, okay, I'm going to come back to you with a plan. They were able to lower their credit card costs, their credit card payments by more than $2,800, saved their home. That could be you. That could be you. So many Americans are struggling right now. One in four are going to forego Thanksgiving this year because they do not have $100 to pull together for a meal for the holiday. You don't have to live that way, everybody. Go to Team Hochberg, 855-56-DAVID. Reach out to them, everybody. 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com and get on the road to financial freedom. You know, we have got Deputy Governor Luana Peters, one of the top political operatives in really not just of this generation, of the last 50 years. So honored to have her with us today. And we have the former national president of NOW, civil rights attorney Terry O'Neill, and the chair of Rainbow Push, legal analyst for Court TV, host of her own radio show on WAOK, and today at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, she'll be on this show, Legal Q&A with CK, tomorrow from 7 to 8. But let's start with Jonathan Jackson. Jonathan Jackson is the Democratic nominee for the 1st Congressional District of Illinois. Looks like he's heading to Washington. You have to vote today to make that clear, to fully disclose, yes, he's a Jackson. Yes, he's my brother. Yes, I'm so proud. Love it. I love him so much. I'm so happy. Jonathan Jackson, what is it looking like today, and why did you run? What do you hope to do when you get to Washington?
Well, first of all, love you, Santita. Thank you. I'm so proud of you. And thank you, listeners, for supporting Santita. I'd like to thank the voters that trusted me with their ballot to be their voice. I started running because the South Side and the nation's in pain. There's deep pain. We saw this in the spring. It's gotten worse in the fall. And now in the wintertime, we ran on a campaign in that part of the year on guns, gas, and groceries. Guns are the number one killer of children in the United States of America. If we weren't talking about COVID, we'd be talking about our children dying from guns. Now we see this fentanyl explosion. It's attacking our families. It's painful. We see the people are running out of money to eat. I'm hearing from senior citizens that are trying to use their financial assistance, government aid, but the corporate profits are raking in the price on pork, on chicken, on beef, on staple items. And so here we are facing hunger in the United States. And the last part is when we talk about transportation, that gas is the West Texas Intermediate is about $90 a barrel. In the past, that's been $2 gas, but it's $5.69 premium here in the city, and $5 hovering above that. In other parts of the region, it's lower, but certainly in this region and in this city, it's still over $5 a barrel. So there's record profits, there's record amount of supply, and we've got a problem. And I want to get to D.C., tackle the issues of hunger. I want to talk about Medicare for all. when I see people that have worked their entire lifetime, and some senior citizens are paying $700 a month for insurance, and there's a shortage of doctors in our district, in our neighborhood. So you just go to the doctor, put a stethoscope on, and then get on a scale, and they ask you what's wrong. Well, we can do that ourselves. We need medical care, not just insurance. And so we have to talk about the pathway, the pipeline to getting more young people into the universities for medical education. If people are getting trained to be doctors abroad for free, because their nation views it as vital and as of utmost importance, and then come over here and practice, why can't we make sure there's a pathway for our citizens to get through college for free and on to medical school so they can service our people at home as well, and then abroad?
Amen to that. I mean, you got my vote, I tell you that. But you mentioned violence, which is something that Deputy Governor Luana Peters has been saying, that it is within our power to deal with violence ourselves. Deputy Governor Peters.
Good morning again. Congratulations, Jonathan, on your victory, and I look forward to what your presence and leadership and your voice will mean to people in this country going forward. But yes, the violence issue, and it is impacting this election, whether or not we, in many ways, I think the Republicans have used the constant media daily tally, if you will, with primary focus on the African American Black community. Daily tally of number shot, number dead. I mean, it's like this is the same pathway we went through with crack. I mean, we're going down the same pathway. And we did not take the bull by the horns and come up with our plan that is in our best interest to address the problem. We marched in on crack houses and called on the police to lock them up. Well, lock them up meant locking up our kids, but we didn't deal with. There's a reason. There's some causes. There's some issues that have to be addressed with. Obviously, we can't just turn a blind eye, but in a sense, we have. We have not come up with a plan. We have the capacity. We have the knowledge. We have the skill. We have to own it and say we are going to put together a plan to address this. Government, city, this is what we require of you to support our plan. State, this is what we require of you to support our plan. Congress, this is what we require of you. Corporations, this is what we require of you. And people, this is what we expect and require of you. We can do this. We own it whether we want to or not.
Jonathan, before you go.
We own it whether we want to or not.
Absolutely. I mean, before you go, is Congress a good place for you to, because you have been, working in the community for decades now. What can you do from that space that you might not be able to do from being on the ground here in Chicago and going to different places around the country?
Having access to other legislators of like-mindedness and kindred spirits. I've met Max Alejandro Frost out of Florida, who got activated after the Parkland shooting. I've met so many young activists that are going into the Congress as well. We're going to have to combine forces. This is a plague. This is a scourge that we're all facing across the nation. City of Chicago, we get the bad rap on gun violence, but there's not one gun shop in the city of Chicago. There's not one gun range in the city of Chicago. Guns are not manufactured in Chicago. Guns are imported, are put into this city and into our community. They're coming from loopholes in Indiana. They're dumped. They're coming from Indiana. They're coming from Arkansas. They're coming from bordering states down in Mississippi. They're also manufactured in Barrington, Illinois, but you never hear the name Barrington, Illinois. It's a high-end neighborhood, very expensive homes, but they manufacture guns. So why do I need to go to the Congress? Because This is bigger than the city of Chicago Police Department, the county and the state department. This needs federal intervention. These guns are coming across state lines. Every other year you hear about a train car where the locks have been broken and the car has been left open, and they've got high magazine, high assault weapons sitting in there for people to go and take out of there. Coincidence over and over again? This is a problem. So I want to go to Washington because we've got to fight with federal legislation, closing these gun loopholes where people are transferring these guns. It is harder to transfer your car than it is to transfer a gun. This is insane, and it's painful. And where our office is on 87th and Cottage Grove here in Chicago, down the block every week in each direction, there are funeral homes that are burying our children from gun violence. The number one, and I have to repeat before I leave, Santita, the number one cause of death for children in the United States of America is gun violence. Now, what should it be? It should be accidents. Accidents. People have accidents. That is normal. That's natural. We cannot normalize violence and the killing of our children with something that is manufactured, be it guns or fentanyl.
Okay, yes.
Amen to that. Jonathan Jackson, I want to thank you for being with us today. I know you're out there campaigning. Today is election day. This is Jonathan Jackson, Democratic nominee for the 1st Congressional District of Illinois. CK, Terry, very quickly before he goes, very quickly.
Vote for me.
Please vote for Jonathan.
Please vote for me. Okay, love you.
I love you. I love you, Jonathan. I love you, Jonathan. And somebody, Paula said, is she talking to her brother? Yes, I am. I'm going to be fair. I didn't say I wasn't going to be biased. I'm going to be fair. Because I think he's the best guy for the job. And I want to hear representatives talk like that. I want to hear, because that's the kind of plain speak that I got from Congressman Gus Savage when I worked for you, Deputy Governor Peters. Someone who was,
I know
close.
he's going to be a tremendous voice going forward in this country. What we must have, because he understands it at the ground level, at the human level. At the base level, he understands it at the level, as well as from the broader world perspective, has a tremendous connectivity with that, from the ground to the world, So it's going to be, we're going to be blessed.
Well, he's going to need your help for sure. And I'm glad that he's got it, because no one has more experience. Well, no one has more experience in this space than you. Attorney C.K. Hoffman, well, you know what? I haven't heard from you, Attorney Terry O'Neill, because, we hear the Republican approach to gun violence, right? Where we're blaming and shaming and taking no responsibility. Everyone in the Black and brown communities we know that these guns are being shipped into our neighborhoods, and they're being left by the railroad tracks or literally on the streets. Fully loaded, Terry. This is crazy.
It really is, and it's just a horrific sort of example of what happens when we allow our politics to become corrupted by big money, right? It's not the NRA. The NRA is a problem. It's the gun manufacturers who are propping up the NRA. The NRA is kind of the front, but the real action is the gun manufacturers who are making money hand over fist in pouring these guns into our communities. So I'm really thrilled that Jonathan's going to be in Congress. Everybody get out and vote. We really need strong voices to talk not just about, mass shootings, which are a terrible problem in the United States like nowhere else in the world, but it's the everyday shootings, especially in vulnerable communities, that we really do need to get a handle on. And what that means is, we just have to rise up against what's happening in this country, which is corporate purchasing of elections. And
the corporate greed. Terry O'Neill, 1 in 4 Americans won't be doing Thanksgiving this year. 1 in 4. They don't have enough money to make the dinner. Are you serious?
What? ask yourself why corporations would want to put up with that state of affairs in the United States. They want to own America. Well, why are you going to own America that looks like that? Well, because their CEOs get rich off of that, Santita. The executive officers of these corporations are making millions and millions and millions of dollars per year while they're insisting on paying their own workers a starvation wage. So there's just, look at where the incentives are. The incentives are to keep people poor and frightened. And I'm sorry to say that is what that's what corporate America is putting its money on right now in politics.
I so agree. Keep us poor, frightened, and dysfunctional, and ill and sick.
Right. Yes. Without access to adequate health care.
Yeah.
I mean, is that what's happening? I mean, is that why you think Herschel? Well, then, just to hop around, is that what's helping Herschel Walker in Georgia? Because he's running as a straight up Christian, CK. Well, and flashing his badge.
Now he's running as a straight up Christian. He has become a straight up Christian. He has become evangelical and all that. Last month, he wasn't a straight up Christian. That has been an evolution in his marketing and the people who are behind him. He had so much, now he's a redeemed person, you see. So all the beating, domestic abuse, ongoing, by the way, and all of the bad things he's done, he's now redeemed. He's been anointed and anointed. And so that's how he's running now. But that's an evolution over the past 30 days. Before that, he was just straight up gangster, running on a gangster street fight campaign. And the sad part about it is his approach is resonating with, of course, the base. And people are, there's like and I believe it's resonating with the base not because of all the Republicans, but because he's a football hero. And football is religion. There's a fine line between football and Christianity and faith in this country, and certainly in Georgia and Alabama and some of the southern states. People view football as that religion that unites people from different persuasions. The only time you can have a staunch conservative January 6th person sitting next to a very, very progressive Democrat and them cheering together rah-rah is at a football game or a basketball game. So Herschel Walker represents that, everybody. And that, believe it or not, people are seeing him run down the football field. So all he's doing is they're giving him the right words. But with this thing is go Herschel, go Herschel, go, much like they were chanting when he was a football player. And then if you add the millions of dollars behind him, the machinery, the Republican machinery, the Trump machinery, then you get somebody who, no matter what he does, kind of like Trump, is resonating with people because it's not really about him. Because if it were about him, there's no way he could ever get to this point. It's about all that other stuff. I'm not saying he's going to win because I believe that Senator Warnock is going to pull it out. But I'm just saying it's an amazing, oppressive state of affairs that he even has gotten to this point. It's oppressive. It is oppressive. It's depressing. It's unbelievable. It's disgusting. It is shameful. And it's embarrassing. And I've said it. As an African American, I am embarrassed that Herschel Walker is at this point. All right. Had to unload, Santita.
You know what? I've got less than a minute, Deputy Governor Peters.
I have to talk to CK. I have to ask you this question. Do you see a similarity with Herschel Walker and Clarence Thomas?
Oh, I got 30 seconds, CK.
I do, lamentably, sadly, I do. Oh, Lord, have mercy, Jesus, I do. That's why I'm saying our Father who art in heaven. That's how I started my day. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. That will be done.
On earth.
So, yeah, there is a similarity, as it is in heaven. And give us this day our daily bread. My goodness.
Not the loaf.
Jonathan Davis's district director and I did a prayer yesterday for the people, for God's people, And what we did was we reversed. We thanked God for taking us in the right direction because people are suffering so much. Rather than asking, we began to thank Him. We began to praise Him and thank Him for intervening. So that I was feeling so down, and I called her, and she sort of went there, and it really made me feel better. I didn't stop working and being concerned, but we do have to sort of thank God for what He is doing and what He is going to do.
Amen. Back in just a minute.
Absolutely.
Back in just a minute. More of the Santita Jackson Show. Woo. Woo. Well, ladies, I want you all back tomorrow. You're not going anywhere now, but I want you back tomorrow because
tomorrow, I thought you were going to do it. We're going to be okay. I'm listening.
No. You're not leaving yet, but I can see. I'm hearing a lot of different conversations that are emanating from this one. And one of the things that I think we've got to get around to, Deputy Governor and Attorney O'Neill and Attorney Hoffler, is, how white women are voting. That's one of the things that, when Terry became the president of NOW, her thing was intersectionality. We all have to come together. And she would always be at the push convention on her way to her convention or on her way from her convention to the push convention, just pushing to get us to work together. And, because when I found those numbers on the 2018 election, that 76% of white women voted for Brian Kemp, I said, everybody's going in, Deputy Governor and attorneys Hoffler and O'Neill, on black men, and how a fraction of them, 10, 15, maybe even 20% at some point, are going to the Republican Party. I'm like, no, y'all, hold on. Black men still overwhelmingly vote Democratic. What you're not talking about is all these white women who vote for Trump, who vote for Brian Kemp, who do not vote for Beto, and on and on. I think we need to dig in on that. Not dig in on the women, but dig in on that and why that happens and how it's happening. We're on Facebook Live, everybody. You all can talk. Please respond. Y'all still there?
Yeah. Oh, you want us to respond to that?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
I think it's short-sighted. It's interesting that I was listening to some comments from white women on various news channels and reading comments, and the focus on the economy and many of the issues I think are somewhat short-sighted. I know some would, flare up with me on that. But even when we focus on the economy right now, there are many things we forget that the slide downward started with the huge free tax break that Mr. Trump carried through when he was in office. Reducing what was coming into the federal coffers. We kind of forget that. Then we had the pandemic that added a whole nother level to stress on the economy. But that will not be a constant. And it will not necessarily change the greed of corporate America, in corporate world, at whomever is elected. But the reality is, in terms of the tenets of democracy, what we think are rights.
Miss Jackson, we have about 40 seconds.
Republicans take
and
charge.
Do we have John Nichols?
Couple things. So we have John Nichols up.
Yes.
We do not have Dahlia Ramirez because our lines are full. We have 2 callers waiting.
Okay. Well, then, I'll go to the callers very quickly. And then I'll go to John,
Yep.
okay?
And then I'll call Miss Ramirez. Okay.
Very good.
And I'll call. I got your message about calling.
State senator.
Yes, Vincent
Right.
Hughes at 7:45.
Fantastic.
All right, stand by.
Thank you so much, John. How are you?
I am very well.
Stand by. Absolutely.
We can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Keep calling in. We've got some Illinois Deputy Governor, former Illinois Deputy Governor, Luana Peters with us today, giving us some brilliant insights. Attorney Erin Connolly will be joining us with State Representative Delia Ramirez, who's running for Congress here in Chicago. She's going to be the first Latina to be sent to the U.S. House of Representatives from our state, from this region. Excited about this history that she's making and glad she's breaking that ceiling so many others can follow her. And of course, we've got Attorney Terry O'Neill, former president, national president of the National Organization of Women, of course, chair of the Rainbow Push National Board, and legal analyst on Court TV, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, the brilliant John Nichols, who is, of course, this is his segment, and he is with the ladies today. But let me bring on some of these callers so we can get everybody else in. Of course, the brilliant John Nichols, national correspondent for The Nation magazine, cannot here, not just about, we need the 30,000 square foot view, what's happening with Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin, but what's happening? We're going to hear from State Representative Hughes from Pennsylvania, State Senator Hughes from Pennsylvania, to find out what he sees with the Fetterman race as well. But we've got some callers. I think we have Anita from North Carolina. Jewel?
I got her on.
Anita?
Hello?
How you doing, sweetie?
Good morning. I'm doing fine. What a great start to the day to hear Jonathan.
Oh, bless your heart.
The best is hopefully he'll run for president and get this country out of this violent stage we're at. And I want to say why I voted today. I didn't want to vote either Democrat or Republican, but Mary, she has a radio show here, the Erica.
Yes.
And she prayed that everyone would make the best decisions when she started her show this morning. She starts in prayer, right? So I decided I'm going to go vote, and I voted straight Democrat. But this is a trial run for the Democrats other than Jonathan, if he ran Democrat.
He did.
Because I'm totally against their abortion policy. That is not a progress for women to kill children. And I told some people outside the polling booth today that gave me my ticket to, they showed me the Democratic slate, gave me the little piece of paper you follow. Okay. I told them that I do not want to be a slave from either party, Republican or Democrat, and I'm voting against everything about it. And I told them that if they do not do what Jesse Jackson says and keep this country fair and right, that I'm going to have a problem with all of them. And that's why I voted today, because I don't want to be a slave. And I told them I don't want to kill my children. If I'm a slave, I have to kill my children. And if I don't kill my enemy's children, so why would I kill my own children? But that's why I voted today, and thank God for Jonathan. I think the country has hope because of him.
Bless your heart. I pray that God will keep his hand on. Well, God will keep his hand on him. I hope he keeps his eyes lifted up to God so he can do God's will. I love you, and thank you so much for always praying for him, Miss Anita. Love you, love you, love you. Tune in tomorrow. We'll see what the victory will look like. We're hoping that he will win, but you got to get out and vote to make that happen, everybody. What about Dynamo Dave? Dynamo Dave, what's on your mind from Minnesota? How you doing, Dynamo Dave?
Good morning, Santita, sunshine of Chicago. How are you doing today?
Oh, the sunshine of my life. What's on your mind, Dynamo?
Thank you. So I just wanted to remind your bright listeners the history of the NRA. It used to be a citizen group.
Yes.
Just citizens. And then the corporate, the corporatocracy, the people that sell guns and the companies that sell guns and bullets and that sort of thing infiltrated it and changed the whole dialogue of that group so that it's like, oh, we're all for, so the original people were for gun control before it got invaded or whatever you want to say by the gun control.
Well, Dave, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because the corporatization of the NRA is what's changed it. It used to be a people's organization. It's not what it started out to be. And most people don't know that because the NRA for progressives has become a dirty word. I hear you, but this is not who they were. When they got a corporate takeover, they got perverted. Wow.
Dynamo Dave dropped.
Dynamo Dave, I'm so sorry. Well, we have to go back to everyone else. But John Nichols, 43 million people as of yesterday have voted, just about. And Republicans are saying that, okay, we want everyone to vote today. And of course, you are joined by former Illinois Deputy Governor Luana Peters, one of the top political operatives of the last 50 years, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, chair of Rainbow Push, legal analyst on Court TV, and of course, the former national president of the National Organization of Women, civil rights attorney, Terry O'Neill. John, what are we looking at today? Are we looking at, the phantom red wave, or what is Mandela Barnes? It's a tighter than this race. Talk to me, my dear brother.
My sister, you're putting a lot on the table.
Yeah, I am.
Let's divide it up and talk about a couple of things.
But before you do,
separate lanes to get to the same place.
Before you do, I've got one of the Latino who will be going to Congress from our state, from our region. State Representative Delia Ramirez, who's running today. I'm catching her just as she is shaking hands and getting people to vote. State Representative Ramirez, soon to be Congresswoman-elect Ramirez, talk to us. I'm so glad you were able to be with us again today.
Good morning. Happy Election Day.
Happy Election Day.
Good morning, everyone.
What do you want us to know before we get out and vote today?
That we don't give up, that we are going to vote, and we're going to vote like our life depends on it, and that every single individual election matters, and it adds to what we need to make sure that we are able to keep as many seats and get more seats in Congress. So I need you to vote for me. I am running in the new Illinois 3rd Congressional District. It's a district that starts in Logan Square in the city of Chicago, and it goes to Elgin in West Chicago. And it's a brand new district, a diverse district, a progressive one. And I need you to go and vote. And if you have already voted, I know you know 5 people that haven't. Drag them out. It's a gorgeous day. We need you to do this for us, for all of us, for our own livelihood. And when you do, and tonight when we will celebrate, yes, the first Latina in the Midwest, but someone that is anxious to work in coalition to represent all of us.
Amen. What is your lever number, State Representative Ramirez? What's your number?
State Representative Ramirez, 3rd Congressional District. That is my district number.
Okay. All right. Okay. Everybody, look, you see people I'm pulling for. She and Jonathan Jackson were endorsed in person by Senator Bernie Sanders. And so we're so grateful for them and for the coalition that they're actually walking in Congress, having built. And we look forward to all the great work that you're going to do. And we just thank God for you and give your mother and father our love. We are pulling for them as they've had their health challenges. We just know and believe that God is the healer. And we thank God for them and for you.
Thank you so much, Santita. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, State Representative Delia Ramirez, Senator to Congress today, everybody. John Nichols. Have to get all this stuff in, John.
Of course, it's a busy day. Election days should be this way. They should be filled with appeals and urgings and encouragements, because this is the time when people ought to be, brought into the very middle of the political process. Instead of being on the sidelines now, this day, voters, people, citizens have the power that they are so often denied. And, this is the day to go and vote. I can tell you that it matters, because as somebody who covers politics for a living, when I look across the country, what I see are dozens and dozens of essential races that are as close as could be. They will be decided today. And one of the mistakes that people make is to assume that it's the recent punditry, that overwhelmingly the votes cast early, those will be Democrat, overwhelmingly the votes cast today, those will be Republican. In reality, a tremendous number of Democrats and independents who lean Democratic will vote today. This is the day. And it is also the day for a lot of people who maybe they're just incredibly busy in their lives, haven't been quite as engaged with the political process to say, oh, I've got the time. I'm going to vote. I'm going to do it because I need to. I know it's the right thing to do. And so, don't let anything discourage you today. Recognize that if you do come to vote today, there's a huge possibility that you will influence the process. There are at least 7 U.S. Senate seats that are within the margin of error. How people vote today will decide the results of those elections. There are governorships across the country that are within the margin of error. How people vote will decide. I live in Wisconsin, and you asked about Mandela Barnes. Both our governor's race, in which Tony Evers is running for re-election, he was elected 4 years ago with Mandela Barnes as his running mate for lieutenant governor. Tony Evers running for re-election with Cesar Rodriguez. They are in a absolute tied race. The polling shows it's exactly even. If Evers doesn't win, Republicans will have complete control of Wisconsin. They will pass all of the voter suppression laws that Evers vetoed. They will pass all of the assaults on economic and social justice that Evers defended against. They will do all the things that people are concerned about. So Evers' reelection becomes this incredibly critical test. And then similarly, there is the race for U.S. Senate. And that race has been one of the ugliest, one of the most difficult races in the country. Mandela Barnes, a young African-American state-elected official, one of the real rising stars, not just in Wisconsin politics, but in national politics, was subjected to a brutal assault. The advertising against him, massive amounts of money coming in, openly racist and crude ads that were truly dishonest. And for a time, Barnes fell behind in the race. He was down 5 or 6 points, and it looked like maybe an undoable race. But in the last 2 weeks, after a couple of incredibly strong debate performances, after a visit from former President Obama, after a big campaign swing through the state by Bernie Sanders, Mandela Barnes is now in a statistical dead heat. He is essentially tied in that race as well. And so turnout today, especially by young people, especially by people, who maybe aren't the most regular voters, that could put Mandela Barnes over the top. And I'll tell you this, if Mandela Barnes wins in Wisconsin, Democrats will have control of the U.S. Senate, and they may well, with John Fetterman coming out of Pennsylvania, have control of the Senate with the power to overturn the filibuster and actually start to get things done.
We're talking with John Nichols, national correspondent for The Nation magazine, which leads me to this question for Deputy Governor Lou Anna Peters. John Nichols, I worked for her. She was the chief of staff for Congressman Gus Savage, but no one has been more involved in Chicago politics, from the Panthers to Harold Washington to Reverend C. Jackson. I mean, I think you were with that when you were in college. Just on and on and on and on. She's done so much, and then when we were in college, she got us. So turnabout is fair play. That having been said, what does it mean to you? When I was working for you, before we bring on State Senator Vincent Hughes out of Pennsylvania, it was a much more collegial atmosphere. After, of course, Newt Gingrich, everything changed. What does it mean? And it seems that in Wisconsin, they're dealing with that same kind of hostility. Would you not agree, John? I mean, it's just a hostile atmosphere.
Oh, it's an incredibly intense atmosphere. When Tony Evers and Mandela Barnes were elected in 2018, they won the election. They turned out Scott Walker and all the other Republicans. Democrats won every statewide race. I emphasize that. They won every single statewide race. They came in, and before they were sworn in, the Republican legislature, working with the defeated former governor, Scott Walker, changed the rules to take power away from the new governor. So it began with an effort to disempower Tony Evers. Tony Evers was left with very few options. Now, the incredible thing about it is he used them so effectively that he turned out to be a successful governor. He ended up, right now, Wisconsin has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country. It has a balanced budget. They have increased funding for education. He's proven to be an incredibly successful governor, but the way he had to do that was by vetoing over 100 bills that the state legislature put forward that would have undermined voting rights, that would have undermined education, that would have undermined civil rights and civil liberties. I mean, it's been a hard 4 years for Tony Evers, but it's been a successful 4 years. And now you're in a situation where if he is reelected, and he's got enough Democrats in the legislature to function, he can go forward. On the other hand, there's two dangerous options today. One, if he is defeated, then the Republicans have complete control of the state. And they've already said they're going to pass all those voter suppression bills that Tony Evers vetoed. So you see, you go backward right there. There's also the threat that in the legislative races, there is a great danger. Republicans are trying to get a veto-proof majority so that even if Evers is reelected, they won't have to work with him. They will just overrule his vetoes. So in Wisconsin, it's an incredibly important election day. But I don't want to overemphasize Wisconsin. It's where I live. It's what I care about. But I cover politics nationally. And I can tell you, there's nowhere in America that this day doesn't matter, that this isn't a huge, huge election day. It's a big deal in Illinois. Illinoisans can vote to put labor rights protections into their state constitution, which is an incredibly important mission. It's a great day in Georgia, where voters can reelect Senator Raphael Warnock, and they can also elect Stacey Abrams as their governor. And let me just tell you one core thing. Stacey Abrams is running in Georgia, and she's a true Georgian, but she was born in Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh.
So I guess it all comes back to Wisconsin.
Well, you know, this is what he's doing. But I'm not mad. But you know what? I've got State Senator Vincent Hughes from Pennsylvania. Wow. An embarrassment of riches. Not even embarrassment. I feel so grateful to have my deputy governor on with me, and John Nichols from Nation Magazine, and my brother from another mother, State Representative Vincent Hughes. Well, you know, you're my big brother. Now you know that. What is going on? I mean, of course, you're on with John Nichols, national correspondent for the Nation Magazine, former Illinois Deputy Governor Luanna Peters, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, former national president of Now You Know Attorney Terry O'Neill. What's going on there? I mean, is the race. I mean, you've got a governor's race that's of tremendous consequence. We've got the senatorial race. Where do you want to begin?
I think, well, first of all, thank you, Santita. It's always great to be on with this. You got all the cool people on Election Day, and that's what we can count. We can count on you, Santita.
I had to grab you.
The cool people are on.
I had to grab you.
You know, it's hard to say no to Santita. I know everybody on this call knows that. It's hard to say no to Santita. But look, I think one of the things that I like to emphasize, and something that John talked about, when he talked about the legislative races in Wisconsin, I want everybody in the sound of this program to obviously focus on the top of the ballot, U.S. Senate, governor, and all those races up there, Congress, what have you. But do not walk out of the polling booth without looking at who's going to be your next state senator, your next state representative. The opportunity to flip chambers in various states around the country is fundamental to our ability to govern. And as things are driven further and further back down to the states, who's in those legislatures matters. Who controls those legislators matters, especially in states where there is now, because of the Biden-Harris administration, there are abundance of riches, abundance of extra resources. We need to control those legislatures so that we can get those excess dollars down to where the people are. I'll just give you an example, and I don't want to get too lost in this, but just give you this example. We have not only in Pennsylvania a $5 billion rainy day fund, which is our couch cushion money in case things go bad in the economy in Pennsylvania. We have an extra $5.4 billion that our next governor will build his new administration with. And that means we can finally address in a dramatic fashion the discrepancy in the inadequate education funding in Pennsylvania and do the things that we've always wanted to get done. But if we don't control the legislature, it makes it extremely hard to do. So the thing that I would ask, as we deal with who's going to be governor, as we deal with who's going to be United States Senate, as we deal with who's going to be in Congress, please, 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 family, focus on who's your next state senator. Focus on who's your next state representative. Controlling these legislatures is fundamental to how we move forward, if we can move forward or not.
I don't think we really paid as much attention. I mean, but that's what coming out of the 2008 Obama victory, Republicans said, you can have the presidency. We're taking over the states. And that is what David Daley's book, Rat Act, talked about. And they have done it. We lost 1,000 seats in 8 years. And we lost the governorships and on and on and on. Very quickly, I got about 3 minutes. What are we looking at with Fetterman and Dr. Oz? I cannot believe this race is so tight. It's just like CK, Raphael Warnock, and Herschel Walker. I'm like, how does this happen? What's going on? What's in the water?
I hate it.
Prayer. Remain in prayer.
I would just to close out here, Santita. What we have observed over the last couple of weeks is that Fetterman, people have moved towards him because I think they see and feel an empathy about his condition and his stroke, and that he's made this commitment to come back from that. You know, a lot of people could have walked away if once confronted with a challenge like that, but he chose to not walk away, to stay engaged, and he's fought through all of this. And they see a person who is earnestly trying to overcome, and he's gotten a lot healthier in the last month or so. And so people are seeing that. I think there's some empathy, some sympathy coming towards that, and I think that's going to help him propel him to victory. But we got a full day's worth of work we got to grind out. No stone left unturned. Every vote that can get cast appropriate legally has got to get cast. We got to get this thing done. Got to get this thing done.
What about Josh Shapiro?
I think Josh will be in good shape. He has run an excellent campaign. He has stayed on focus, stayed on message. He has put ourselves in a position where we're about to elect the first African American lieutenant governor in the history of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in Austin Davis. And I think we cannot lose sight of that opportunity to make that kind of history. Great young man. Father's a bus driver, mother's a hairdresser, come from the community. He deserves to have this position. And if we do the right thing, which I think we will, he's going to get that position.
And let us think of C. Dolores Tucker today, the first African American. That's right.
Amen.
She was the Secretary of the Commonwealth. Absolutely. And love that woman.
Her responsibility to count the vote. Absolutely.
Love that woman. And then you had, of course, Emmett Chappelle, bank owner. I mean, Philadelphia's been real good to us, everybody, and I love Philly. I love Philly. I love my Mary Mason, my godmother. I love Philly. I love it. I love Philly, and I love Madison, Wisconsin. Okay, because it gave us Stacy and you. And I want you all to stay with me just for a couple more minutes. I want to get some closing thoughts from you on the other side. On Facebook Live, everybody, please get out and vote. Vote.org, vote.org. Very quickly, CK, I've got about 30 seconds. If people go to vote.org and find out that they've been purged from the rolls, what do they do?
If they find out they've been purged from the rolls, they call 1-866-OUR-VOTE. And they should also go to the Board of Elections, but call 1-866-OUR-VOTE because we're on the final stretch. You don't have a lot of time to think and guess. Call 1-866-OUR-VOTE and report it right away, immediately. But when you go to the rolls, get a provisional ballot, but report it first.
Report it, but then go
turn it around.
Report it and then go to the polling place, right? To the precinct.
Go to the polling place because it can be turned around. It might be able to get turned around so that you can vote.
Okay, don't be deterred if you find out that you've been purged. Call 1-866-OUR-VOTE.
Keep on fighting.
That's right. Keep on fighting, everybody. Stay right here. I'm going to get some closing thoughts from this magnificent panel that we've had today. I'm going to continue it tomorrow. But everybody get out and vote. I love you. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Vote, 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 vote. Of course, I want you to vote a particular way, but I want you to vote. And let us as Americans Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, wherever it is, whatever it is, however we're going to vote, let us protect each other's right, our collective right to vote. That really is the point. That's what makes America great, truly great. I love everybody. Can't wait to meet you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. See you tonight at the South Shore Cultural Center at 6 o'clock. Yeah. God bless.
Yes.
Closing thoughts from everyone. Senator Hughes, have you left yet? Because I know you're running out the campaign.
I'm gonna give you my closing thoughts, and I'm gonna get on the run.
Okay.
Santita, it is again. There's an issue of fear. What some of these knuckleheads that are out on the ballot right now could do to us, but there's also a conversation of opportunity, what's available to us. If we do the right thing, if we make the right decisions, we can have some really transformative policies put in place, some really transformative budgeting put in place that really can change the course of the lives of people who have been left out and knocked out for far too long. So we got to vote against some bad folks out here, but we got to vote for some tremendous opportunities that are available. I chair the Appropriations Committee on the Democrat side in the Senate of Pennsylvania. I know how much resources, how much money we have, not just in Pennsylvania, but across the country, state by state by state. There's opportunities, overwhelming opportunities, but we got to take advantage of it. We got to vote. We got to make this thing happen.
Well, I have a question for you, because we have people listening from all over, like Daryl Prunty, who's he's not from Philly, but he is from Pennsylvania. Your Supreme Court invalidated thousands of your mail-in ballots. And now people in Philly, you're trying to get replacements. What do they do? I'm trying to figure out how that worked.
So what there was, if you didn't fill out all the information correctly, and trying to keep this short and simple, if you didn't fill out all the information correctly in your vote by mail ballot, you've got to go down to City Hall and get that information corrected. It's not a long process. It's a very short process, maybe a little bit of a line. There are about 3,500 people in the city of Philadelphia who had this problem. A number of them got squared away yesterday. City Hall is open today to finish that effort. That is the importance of voting for judges, Supreme Court judges, local judges, because it is the state Supreme Court that made that decision that if all the information was not filled out correctly, the ballot would not be counted, which was not the case 2 years ago. So voting is relevant. Voting matters. If you have an issue, go ahead down to City Hall and get that squared away. The systems are in place to get that all fixed.
Okay. State Senator Vincent Hughes, I can't wait to have you back on, big bro. I am pulling for Fetterman and Josh Shapiro and you and everybody today, because we really do. We need people who are for the people in these offices. And that's what I love about him. And of course, everybody had a crush on him once we saw him on the bill when he was running in '84. So there was that. We shallow. Look, I'm not CK.
You really pulled that. I shouldn't have never sent you that photograph.
I hollered, but I did campaign in Philly.
You the thing we shall overcome.
Girl, look, wait a minute. He was fine.
We shall overcome.
He was fine. You were like, oh, wait a minute.
We shall overcome.
Hallelujah. Yes. We were like,
all right, y'all, I gotta go get some votes.
You know I'm pitiful. I'm pitiful. I am pitiful and shallow. Yes, I am. Yeah. Yeah. But, I am pitiful. And of course, I'm going to the former president of the National Organization, women behind that. Do I sound like I am a fallen woman? I'm sorry, Terry. I'm doing the best I can.
Good art, pleasing artwork is always appreciated.
I love it. When they know the picture to put on that bill, we were like, it was him, Daddy, and somebody else. We were like, oh, who's that? My mother even said, she said, no, isn't he? He's good looking. My mother loves that.
Yes, pleasing art is always appreciated. We should always recognize it and comment on it.
I can't believe my former boss is saying these things. I'm getting hurt now. This is like almost like hearing my mother say that someone's fine. I can't take it. I can't take it. But he is also married to the legendary Cheryl Lee Ralph. But in all seriousness, a tremendous public servant, and has dedicated his life to that. And she has too, by being so supportive of him. And when you look at her body of work with her art, they're just a tremendous couple, and I love them both with all of my heart. But what do you want us to look out for today, Terry? I mean, because it just seems like it's a mixed bag. We are on track to put more Black people in, at least more Black folks are running on the Republican side than they have in generations, in maybe 50, 60 years, which means ever. And then you've got Carrie Lake, who was with Obama. I mean, and it's just a mixed bag, Terry. I mean, philosophically, people are coming from a whole lot of different directions. I mean, what are you seeing today?
I mean, honestly, I think the Republican Party is a MAGA party. They are deeply racist. There's just no way around that. I realize that they're really making a strong play, as strong as they can, for African American voters and Latino and Latina voters, for Asian American voters. But the MAGA Republicans are deeply racist, deeply anti-Semitic, and violent. Why are they doing so well, right, in this election? I have to tell you, Santita, it's white voters. What MAGA is appealing to, and what is something that white voters are very receptive to. I see people saying, well, they're susceptible. They are receptive. We, people who look like me, are receptive to a message that only by voting for MAGA, can we maintain our our supremacy status in society. And look, I have seen this. I've been looking online trying to find it again, but I remember seeing an analysis of Herschel Walker's candidacy. He is every white racist dream.
Okay, now why is he every white racist dream? I need to hear a white person tell me this.
Crazy. Okay, but I'm going back. No, I want to hear it. Let's hear it, because I want to hear it too. She's the closer. Go ahead. He's crazy, but I just had to say that, and I'm going back on mute. He's crazy. I'm going back on mute.
But think about it. He is the embodiment of every negative stereotype of African American people that white supremacy has ever come up with. He is an athlete. He is violent. He is violent against women. He is not bright. And you compare him to Reverend Warnock. Herschel Walker is the stereotype that white people want to believe actually characterizes Black people. Senator Warnock is a man of integrity. He's a man of faith. He's a man of extreme intelligence, and he is exactly the kind of Black man that is jarring, I think, to a lot of white voters because Reverend Warnock does not fit the stereotype, but Herschel Walker does, and this is what MAGA Republicans are doing: is they are just appealing to white supremacist voters. And I think what we're going to see at the end of the day, when we look at how the votes have shaken out, is that it's overwhelmingly Republican candidates will get the white vote. They will overwhelmingly lose the votes of people of color. So that's one thing. Let me just say about white women. I mean, it cuts to my heart. It is a knife to my heart to see so many white women voters deciding that economics is more important to them than their own reproductive health care, that they would vote for bans on abortion for candidates who will impose a nationwide ban on abortion, that white women would vote for candidates who will put that nationwide abortion ban on us is just heartbreaking to me. But it shows you, and it's not about economics. The white people tell you it's about economics. It's about their economic status in the country. It's not about economics generally. It's about how do I make sure that as a white person, my economics are better than anybody else. So I'm very discouraged to see how close these races are.
They're so
I hope the
close.
Democrats will win, but they shouldn't be this close, given what our choices are.
But Terry, I think we're having an honest moment. I think that's the upside to this. John,
yeah,
we're being honest. I mean, look, we do a whole lot of obfuscating with racism and classism. Just overall, we act as if classism does not exist in America. It absolutely does. You have an oligarchy. We replace a monarchy with oligarchy. You get into these Ivy League schools because more than likely your parents were legacy. I mean, come on, John. Come on.
Yep.
I mean, really.
Look, this is the thing to understand. There's always a tension. And it is possible. This is hard sometimes for people to put all these pieces together. It is hard sometimes to see great progress, to see the incredible steps forward that have been made, and then to realize that can be undone, that we can go backward. And if you look at the mid-1960s, not to give a big history lesson here or anything like that, but in the mid-1960s, imagine what happened in 1964, 1965. You had the Constitution amended to get rid of the poll tax so that we no longer had a wealth barrier to voting. That gets to your class issues. We had the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act. We had the launch of the War on Poverty. We had a new focus, especially on rural poverty, looking at the condition of white working class and people of color in communities across this country. We had Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and A. Philip Randolph launching their people's budget, their plan, literally to transform the United States in the way that Franklin Roosevelt had promised with the Economic Bill of Rights. There was a moment there where it just seemed like everything was possible, and people started picking up on it. You saw the rise of the women's movement, making incredible demands and vital progress. You saw the rise of a youth movement, anti-war, pro-civil rights, demanding the right to vote. Within a few years, the voting age lowered to 18. You saw the rise of an environmental movement so strong that Richard Nixon signed the EPA, Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act into law. I mean, what a moment, right? And then, now we look today, we see a period of backtracking on almost everything, right? Everything seems to be threatened, everything up for grabs. What we have to understand is that there is a constant push and pull in this country. There is racism, there is xenophobia, there is classism. These things have always existed. And we can tell ourselves in a particular moment, 2008, when Barack Obama was elected president of the United States, that we have made an incredible leap forward, that we have put things behind us and we will never go backwards. But then we see the midterm election of 2010, and you see that Tea Party revolt and the disempowering of President Obama. What I would emphasize to you is that because of this constant push and pull, we can't lie to ourselves. We have to recognize that every election is the most important election of our lifetime. That's the thing. People get frustrated. They say, "Oh, well, this election can't be the most important. This one can't." No, every single election is the most important because it is in every single election that we either tip the balance toward that progress that we saw in the 1960s for a period there, or toward that backtracking that we have seen in so many ways since 2010. Right? This is the fight, and this is why we're on the radio today. This is why we're on your show talking about this and talking deeper, as Terry has, in such fundamental ways, as Senator Hughes just did a few minutes ago, in detailed ways, as Gelio Ramirez just did. This incredible woman is going to Congress in just a few months. We're talking to people so that perhaps folks who've become a little frustrated, a little bit disenchanted, a little even disengaged, will say, "Okay, hold it. I understand. I've got to get up and go and vote today." Because at the end of this whole discourse, this whole debate, we come down to a fundamental reality that there are times in our lives where the foundations are broken, where things start to fall apart. And what do? If the foundations are destroyed, we take the pieces of them and we build that new temple, that new Jerusalem. We build forward to something that is necessary. We've seen a lot of things get wrecked. A lot of things go bad in the last few years. Coronavirus pandemic that was far worse than it needed to be. Economic uncertainty, inflation now, deeply frustrating. Precedents that we thought were locked in being broken apart by our Supreme Court. It can be one of those moments where we really do think that the foundations are destroyed. But if they are being cracked, if they are being broken, it's our job to rebuild them. It's our job to make this the day where we begin building toward that next incredible period where economic and social and racial justice, peace, and saving our planet are the highest and most well understood priorities of those who govern us. It's possible, but it is only possible if we, the people, go and vote today.
Well, amen to that. Deputy Governor Luanna Peters?
It's, from John to Terry, that's the close. I'd love to be in touch with Terry. I mean, just
I'm going to connect you all right now.
It's the emotional, the momentary. Well, no, it's not. It's long standing. But when I feel I can take that the filter off and respond to that desire for superiority. At one point, we were able to begin to step away from that, as John, sort of encapsulated it. But we are there now, and I'm hoping that particularly white women will see that it is not just, to me, and I'm not a white woman, but it's not just the who decides what happens with my body, but there will be many other things that will come into play down the line, whether or not it is working, what happens on the job for all of us, and including white women. So it is not just, and it's not, they would speak in terms of economics, but it's not economics. It's, not in that context, in terms of the economy. It is about my status and where I fit in society, and am I missing out, whatever the term might be. But you got to, hopefully they will think beyond that. Think in chess terms, go down the road a little bit. Because if I can, if people can decide what happens with my body, they can also decide whether or not I can work.
Yeah.
And if I work, under what conditions?
Yeah.
And if I can go to school, and if, where's the cap on that? If I can have this position, is there a cap on that? So it's not just, if I take one right away, what's going to stop me from taking others?
You know what?
Important.
I'm wondering if we're thinking that far. I'm just wondering. I'm wondering. Because I've talked to any number, I've talked to any number of people who are staunchly anti-abortion, and I'm like, okay, because some of the greatest anti-abortion activists, they become that after they've had their last abortion, which is kind of what bothers me too. Because I'm like, okay, you were able to get your PhD, get your job, work out your marriage, work out your life, or whatever, but you're going to deny this to someone else. I mean, and mind you, I'm someone. Just my own religion. I'm not someone who's supportive of abortion for myself, but I'm not going to impose that on you.
I'm the same. I am absolutely the same, but I'm not going to impose it on you.
I'm not going to impose that on you, and I'm not going to lecture you either. Yes.
I will work with you if there's some barriers or some conditions that are sort of leading you to the belief that that's your only option. I will work with an individual, and I have in the past, to say, okay, there are some other options here. Let's talk about it for a little bit. Let's take the next couple of days. Let's take the next week and talk about it and work through. And in the instance where I was able to do that, we actually worked through, and there is a 30-some-year-old person walking around now doing well because we worked through the issues. My own religion, my own personal, I'm opposed to abortion, but I am not, for the forcing of the policy. Because it really is. It's not about that, I don't think, particularly in terms of white men. It is not just about a religious issue. It is superiority. We need numbers.
Oh, I mean, look, it takes you back to the
line.
plantation, Ms. Peters and
We need
CK.
numbers.
It's like, come on. Really? This is not about marriage, any of family, none of that to y'all. This is about numbers, control. This is what this is. CK, are you still there? I know you're going to do your radio show.
Yes, I am still here, and I'm going to have to run. Santita, we just have to remain in prayer and keep on fighting. I want people to understand that when I say I'm in prayer and I say the Lord's Prayer, I'm really serious about that. I'm not joking about it. I may say it in a lighthearted way, but I'm very serious about that. We have to remain in prayer just as they remain in prayer. All of the freedom fighters always were in prayer. They were faith-based organizations, faith-based protests, faith-based change and revolution back in the day. And today what we're looking for is we just want to have the right to vote. So people have to vote and remain in prayer, whatever your faith. Remain in prayer that tomorrow will be a better day. I'm standing here in Georgia just feeling incredibly solemn. I guess that's the best word.
Really?
Because I have fear that Herschel Walker could win. I have fear that Governor Kemp will win, but I have peace in knowing that there's a strong possibility that Senator Warnock will win, and there's a good possibility that Stacey Abrams can win. And that makes me feel some kind of way good inside, despite all of the other fears and doubts that I have because of what's surrounding me here in Georgia. Because Atlanta is not Georgia. Mm-hmm. Atlanta is Atlanta. Right. Mm-hmm. We have to remain in prayer.
No kidding, because there's Atlanta, there's Georgia, there's Chicago, there's Illinois. I mean, because it's just very quickly. I mean, I know you got to run, CK, but we're watching our governor run. He's huffing and puffing around this track, Deputy Governor Peters. Because
I say huffing and puffing.
Well, I mean, I'm not cracking.
Huffing and puffing.
Girl, he's huffing and puffing. He's running harder than you would think a Democratic governor would have to run. But if this is a Republican state. We're just not right-wing Republican. This part of the country is Republican, really. Okay? We have Democratic cities, but they're Republican states. And it's like you get the sense that, wait a minute, maybe his internal data is telling him that he needs to run real hard. This might not be a cakewalk for him either in Illinois. Yep. Deputy Governor Peters, am I wrong?
Well, I think that the Republican candidate has gotten a lot closer than Governor Pritzker had ever expected, and the rise up, if you will, downstate, the challenge to some, in terms of some of the congressional races, are a lot closer than he would have expected. So therefore, he has to step out, because I also believe he has future expectations. And if you've got future expectations beyond the state of Illinois, then you want to have an outstanding victory, not just a victory. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably pushing more than anything else. He wants to have an outstanding victory.
Well, you know what I tell you, we will know something else tomorrow morning. And, I want us to, let me just very quickly, why was it important for you to hear Terry really give us the explanation of white women and their thinking? Why was that important? Because you wanted to hear from her.
Oh, yes. Well, she was speaking words that I have said in my head and to close friends. And I'm hearing it from her. That was, it was an affirmation that I was not off in some never land, if you will. That recognition, I think, is a value as we do what John said, all the pieces that's broken, as we begin to put the pieces back together and rebuild the foundation and move forward with the positive, progressive, people-based, people-concerned policies and issues in this country. It is exciting to hear that, that there are people who recognize this is what it is. And so if we can be honest about that, then we can begin to figure out, okay, what do we do in order to sort of put a cap on that? How do we move around it? How do we address it? How do we, So I'm excited. It was an affirmation that I was not in Never Never Land, as I've said these things in mantra almost for quite a while, for the last 10, 12 years or so in particular.
Well, no, you're not jumping over the castle at Disney. This is it. This is it. But I want to thank all of you. Is there anything that's been left unsaid? Is there anything else that anyone wants to say?
Yeah, I really want to say, I'm hoping that someone is listening who may not have voted yet and thinking, but I remember I was in Zimbabwe in 2002 with the national NAACP as a national observer for the presidential election. I was designated by the NAACP to be the observer. And I met a woman who was standing in line with a small baby. And I asked the translator to ask her how old the baby was. It was a long line, and out in the Victoria Falls area, and the baby was 6 or 7 days old. No cars or anything around because it was a school with no windows where they were voting. And she said the baby was 6 or 7 days old, and she had walked in the equivalent of 7 miles, and was standing in line. And it was going to be in line for a long time, because it was a long line. And then she had to walk back. She told me, I asked him to ask her, why would she, with a 6 or 7 day old baby? She said, President Mugabe is for me. His heart is for me. I must vote. That's the kind of determination that we have to have, no matter what try and stand in our way. We must take every opportunity to vote. Don't let anything turn you around. Remember the number to call if somebody's removed you from the polls. Call the number, report it so it is on the record when you go in to get your provisional ballot. Don't let anything stop us from voting. If she could walk 7 miles with a 6 or 7 day old baby, stand in line, and then walk back, then obviously we can get a bus, get a car, get a wagon, get a bicycle, stand in the line, do what's necessary, vote.
Amen to that. John, I think that says it all.
You said it well. Let me I'll just add one thing that rises from that great statement, and that is that the Reverend Jackson taught me a very, very long time ago. It's amazing to think that it's almost 40 years ago.
Ooh.
Reverend Jackson taught me, and I know, think about that. When you get to election day, you got to put the punditry aside. You got to put all the analysis and all the paralysis that extends from analysis aside. And you gotta go to your heart and your soul, and you gotta go and vote for what you believe in and for what you know is possible. This is that day. And I'll tell you, we are going to look back on this day historically, and we're going to say this is a day where we went one way or the other way. The choices are so stark. You've laid them out so well in this show, and all of the wonderful commentators and callers have done so. This is it. I mean, this is where we figure out what we're going to be as a country. Doesn't mean we're going to end. We'll keep going and we'll keep fighting. But this is the day that's going to determine how hard that fight is. And it will be dramatically easier if people of good faith and people of goodwill go to the polls today and cast a mighty, mighty vote for those who favor economic and social and racial justice, who favor peace, and who want to save this planet.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Amen. That's really what it comes down to, everybody. What did Dr. King say? Where do we go from here? Chaos or community?
That's right.
That's it. Where do we go from here? And then it really is, The issues are that profound and the choices are that stark. Really. They are. And we're going to have to, Reverend said it. We came over here on different boats, but we're on different ships, but we're in the same boat now. We are. Get out and vote. That's very important that you get out and vote today. And let's talk about this tomorrow. But get out and vote. Get out and vote. And get somebody to the polls. Make sure, and when you get to the polls, make sure that your fellow citizens are being treated fairly, because it is not just about you. This is an American exercise, and we are all tied up together in the same garment of destiny, all of us. If Black people are mistreated, eventually everybody else is going to be mistreated. That's the way it works, everybody. Indigenous people, women, LGBTQ, poor white men, we're all in the same boat. Gotta understand that. we are here together. And we came here on different propositions, but the only reason we're all in the United States is because everything else, something didn't work someplace else. Now that's even for Africans. I will say that, because somebody got thrown away. And that's what America is the nation of the throwaways. Now, come on, let's come up with something great. Go from trash to treasure. Let's do that. Get out and vote today, y'all. Get out and vote. That's what I'm talking about. Deputy Governor Luana Peters, I love you, admire you, and I'm so glad that you were with us today. So glad you're going to be with us tomorrow. I know she was like, what? Because she's going to be with us tonight, too. So I might have to let you go tomorrow, okay? Because we're going to be at the South Shore Cultural Center late. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm a senior citizen.
Anyway, like I was saying, Attorney Terry O'Neill, I wish you were with us tonight. John Nichols, I wish you were with us tonight, but you'll be with us in spirit. So
I will be with you in spirit, and we will. I will tell you, you're in a good place. There are going to be a lot of good results in Illinois, but some of these results we won't have tonight. We won't have tomorrow morning. Some say we may well be still talking about this on December 6th, because if Georgia comes down to a hair's breadth, that Georgia Senate race could go to a runoff that's on December 6th. So,
do you think they're going to go to a runoff? Do you think either of them will get 50%?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, my gut tells me that there's a real good chance of a runoff. And so, what I'm saying is, I appreciate that for someone who knows. And so, let's watch what we can tonight. Let's get our rest when we need to. And then let's recognize that we'll be at it probably tomorrow, probably the next day, maybe for many days to come. In fact, let's be honest with ourselves. The struggle continues.
And the victory is certain if you continue in the struggle.
It is. That is correct.
Yes, that's what it is. That's the other side of that. The struggle continues, but the victory is certain if you continue with the struggle. We've got a lot to work with, everybody. We've got a lot to work with, starting with each other. How about that? It might not seem like it, but all you have to do is leave the United States. I'll say this to you, Deputy Governor and Attorney O'Neill and John Nichols. We were walking down the Champs-Elysees, obviously in Paris. And, we'd had all this wonderful French cuisine, and it was, these little petite, fabulous meals, wonderful. It was a marvelous trip. But we're walking down the street, and, saw that McDonald's sign, and something in everybody's stomach just said, yeah, give me some fries, something, a burger. I want that. Supersize me. Yes. Thank you, Michael Moore. Give it to me. Give it to me. And it was so funny, because we bumped into a white family, I think from Kentucky, I think it was. And when we saw each other, we laughed and we hugged each other. I said, now, darn, why do we have to be in Paris for this to happen? Because they said, we've been eating all this French food, and I just wanted me a hamburger. That's what I wanted. I wanted some fries. I wanted a supersized Coke. Because you have these little mini Cokes over here, these little mini sodas. I said, oh, yeah. I mean, it was just wonderful. If we could just do that here, and we can. We can. We can. Medi, I wish I could take a nap today. I got a full day. My brother's running for Congress, and I got to go help him. Hello, got to do whatever I can. So there we go. But I hope, Medi, Snake Hips, I hope you will join us over at the South Shore Cultural Center tonight. We're going to have some fun. So come on. And L. Stanley Davis and everybody, I hope you will join us today. Latino Voices Matter. I wish you could join us, but you are out east, but I know you'll be with us together. And I love you, everybody. John, I love you. I'm going to reach back out to you because you're going to need to do a post-mortem.
Yeah, we'll talk
Do you think you'll know something about Mandela Barnes tonight or no?
We'll see. I think there's a decent chance. There's a decent chance. Wisconsin counts its votes pretty quickly.
Oh,
and we don't have runoffs like Georgia. So there's a chance.
Do you think is the momentum with him?
The predicting game.
Okay. All right.
I've always thought the momentum was with Mandela.
You did.
I've always thought it was with Mandela Barnes. He is a remarkable man. I was with him last night, last evening, and he remains as steady and focused and impressive as he's ever been. And so I have always believed that he can do this. The question is whether enough other people believe. That's what
you
it all
have
comes
said
down
that.
to.
To be fair, you've said that from the beginning. When he was behind, you said that.
Yep.
You said that, to be fair.
All right.
All right, sweetie.
Let's go and do.
I love go and do. Now there it is. Lieutenant Governor, I will see you. Deputy Governor, I will see you later on tonight. Terry O'Neill, my heart's with you. Terry, set your alarm clock for tomorrow. Terry.
I will, Santita. I'll do that.
7 morning. There you go. Well, she's out west.
All right.
And so she's like 2 hours behind us. But I think that is I really think that it's important. I mean, her political analysis is spot on. But I think that, we need to hear, one of the blessings of this show is that you get a chance to hear. We don't have to talk about people. We can talk with people and talk to people. Black, white, brown, yellow, red, whatever your persuasion. And that's what I love. And so when I heard, because I've known Deputy Governor Peters for a long time. So when she said stop, I want to hear what she has to say about white women. That made me stop because I know her. I know she's listening for something. And there's that. So, and that's an invaluable contribution to this conversation. Not that that's the only conversation. That's not the only contribution that you make, Terry, but it's something that, quite frankly, I've seen you push on for years. You've always pushed. And I was like, okay, she's pushing real hard. And I said, well, maybe I've underestimated, what's going on here. And you said you need to understand the culture. And when you understand the culture, it's just like Frank Watkins, because that's what Frank brought to us. Frank understood white people because he was one, and he was from a family of very conservative white people, and on and on and on. So he said, no, you need to understand how deep this is in the culture. And I think that's when we have these conversations, when we bring our experiences to the conversation, that's when we can make some real progress, And so I'll speak with you in the morning, 5 a.m. your time. Hello.
All right, my dear. See you then.
All right. Everybody, I'll see you tonight at the South Shore Cultural Center, 71st and South Shore Drive, starting at 6 o'clock. It's going to be great. Come on out, everybody. Love you. God bless.
God bless.
God bless you. See you later on, Deputy Governor.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.